this weekend, the runaway favourite.
10 MotoGP appearances here in the Sachsenring, Marc Marquez. He's never finished lower than second. 9 of those have been from the top step of the podium. Virtually frequently was in 2024. Of course, when he had to fight his way through from 13th on the grid on the Brazilian Ducati. So then just before, the majority of the paddock, and it certainly the full top cut off on our summer holidays. A very hard earned after a pretty intense recent run. Let's take it across all of Europe. We are set for action then here in the Grand Prix of Germany. Big test of Sachsenring circuit. Shortened configuration of 3.671 kilometres, but it packs a punch in places. Tough braking zone into the first corner when you get the rear lifting up, which is screwed the handful of brakes over the thrust down into that off-camber first corner. And then there is the magnificent, for me, probably one of the top 3 corners on the entire Grand Prix calendar. It's always a super special sight to see the world's best riders plunge down through the Ralph Walden curve, turn 11. It is a summer sight to watch the riders on that particular part of the Sachsenring circuit. Well, we know what the factory Ducati team are doing in 2027. We know what the factory Yamaha team are doing in 2027. We now know what the factory KTM team are doing in 2027. We know what the factory Aprilia team are doing in 2027. The only factory squad yet to play their cards in terms of their lineup for next year, of course, are Honda, which we believe Fabio Quartararo is going to be one of their riders. And a toss-up we see between Fabio Alonso and Diogo Moreira about who will be alongside him at HRC next season.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's a bad decision there, is there, between Alonso and Moreira, although Cal Crutchlow unfortunately has had a tough start to the weekend on the LCR Honda, which we might yet see David Alonso on next season. It doesn't appear as if it's down to Cal. It looks as if the LCR Honda has had some early mechanical problems on its first out lap of the weekend.
Oh yeah, that's an unfortunate start to Cal Crutchlow's weekend. Of course, he continues to stand in for the absent Frenchman Joan Zarco. Some positive news as far as Joan Zarco goes. We were told, or LCR Honda released a statement in the build to this German Grand Prix weekend, saying that Joan Zarco has undergone further medical assessment. He was waiting for what we believe was an extensive surgery on his mangled left knee after that horrible crash in Barcelona a few weeks ago. And that's confirmed as preventing the operation taking place. Good news for Zarco, he does no longer require surgery. Now he's targeted potentially a September return to action. That's the good news. The bad news is when he does come back, he's been hit with a double on that penalty. Yeah, he has to come back. That's a speedy recovery for Joan Zarco.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't adopt the centre-end penalty when you're deciding whether to hand out penalties or not. Yes, of course, it was a very painful crash moment for Joan Zarco to experience, but we're able to look at what was a crash that Joan Zarco caused, and he will serve a double on that penalty when he makes his return from injury. And we hope it is sooner rather than later. So after that means I was amazed that we even were entertaining the possibility of seeing Joan Zarco as early September, so potentially he might be missing another 2 Grand Prix before we see him back in action. And potentially the earliest we might see him back is Misano, perhaps more likely Austria, or the flyaway stretch starting in Japan for a return for Jeff.
We saw that Grappidaire Aston in every sense was a super weekend for the Supercar Trackhouse Aprilia squad. Only the second time in Grand Prix history to complete a weekend where both of their riders were first and second in the sprint and in the Grand Prix. Last time that happened, the only time previously that happened with Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez in the Table Mountains in Japan last year. And what was a pretty special occasion for the captain when Marc won his 7th World Championship against Supercar Trackhouse. Ralph Fernandez, Lee Van Aigura in a sprint 1-2 the Netherlands. It was roles reversed in that brilliant Sunday show in Assen for Supercar Trackhouse. Aigura becoming the first Japanese Grand Prix winner in the Premier Classes with Koto Tamara in 2004. Early clash here for Marc Marquez. We're going to go down to Jack very, very shortly. But it's just an early tip-off here then for Marc Marquez. It's on the power, coming out of turn 3, the Omega corner. So a far from ideal start then for the undisputed king of the Sachsenring. See there, Mark's quickly back on his feet, but that is on only his 3rd lap of the morning. He's gone straight away up in the 2nd place behind Marco Bezzecchi.
Riders crashed at that corner in all classes now this morning. We had a backing Danishwa down there in Moto3. And we also saw forward down there in the Moto2 section. And as much as this circuit of Sachsenring largely goes left, it's often the right that we find the riders coming unstuck.
So Mark looks relatively okay. Let's just have a look at this one then from the outside camera. Through turn 3 he goes. Just going to cut to a late apex here. We've got on the curve there. It's on the inside curve there. Look like he might have just clipped it and settled the bike and rough to send Mark into the gravel trap. Just feeling there, just sending back in, feathering the bottle. No great damage done to that factory Ducati, and more importantly, no great damage done to our reigning world champion. Well, let's pick it up once again with Jack. Thanks for his patience. Thanks also to the patience of Supercar boss Davide Brivio. Can they repeat their brilliance at last? What a story it was for the American-based team. Jack Downey, good morning, guys.
Yeah, good morning to everybody at home. Good morning to Davide. As we saw on the screen just a moment ago, Trackhouse making history just a couple of weekends ago. Only the second team in the sprint era to have gone 1-2 in both the sprint and the Grand Prix. Now, 2 weeks on, what has the last few days been like, Davide? And the reaction back in America, of course, the team is based.
Yeah, of course, it was a great story, but also on the Saturday of us, Trackhouse won the Xfinity on a Super 5 colors, so it was a great weekend for Trackhouse. And yeah, of course, everybody happy, everybody proud, but this is the past. So now we have to restart a new weekend, back to Friday morning in Assen, and try to build up a good weekend. What's happened in Assen is not easy to repeat, but it's done. And so we here, of course, happy and try to do our best.
We spoke in Assen about I and the team enjoying that underdog mentality, that tag of going under the radar ever so slightly in the World Championship, but I don't think we can say that any longer. After 4 straight top 2 finishes, including that win last time out, he's a serious contender now. How will that pressure, how will that spotlight, do you think, change him and the environment here at all?
I think we don't really feel a contender yet, because it's a long way to go. I think the championship will probably start around Aragon, which is a marked track. And then in Asia will be the time. So I don't know. It's very early. We try to enjoy. We try to build up a good weekend, and then we will see.
I, speaking in the press conference yesterday, stated that this is one of his real bogey circuits. So are you expecting a slightly different weekend to what we saw in Assen?
Yeah, but of course, during the season you can have a good weekend, bad weekend. The most important is don't to get too much excited when it's good weekend, and not to be depressed when it's a difficult weekend. But just be stable, keep a good balance, and keep going. Try to score as many points as possible. At the end of the year, we will do the calculation.
And just finally on Raul, we should touch on him. Another excellent weekend at a time when we've all known that he's racing for his MotoGP future. It feels as though he's used all of that pressure, all of that expectation, and fueled it into positive results. What does that say about his mentality?
Yeah, no, it's remarkable, and I told him yesterday that despite the situation, despite the pressure, he reacted well, and I like that. I mean, I really appreciate it. It also means growing up, maturing, and so I think we can have a good future.
Davide, great chat. Have a good weekend. Hopefully it's as good as Assen.
Hopefully a good weekend.
That's thanks to Trackhouse boss Davide Brivio. Yeah, the future looks pretty bright, doesn't it, for Ayagura and for Ralph Fernandez. The present looking exceptionally bright for the American-based team. Ralph Fernandez has won 2 of the last 4 sprints. I was surprised when I was updating my stats that second place to Agura and Assen was actually his first Grand Prix podium since the opening round of the season in Buram in Thailand. He'd been to the podium on Sunday on a couple of occasions since. Fabio Antonio was briefly leader of this session, because now it's Alex Marquez who's taking control. Talking of heroic rides in 2026, the one that Alex Marquez delivered when he was battered and bruised, not fully back to full fitness after his horrible crash when he hit Pedro Acosta in Barcelona, the monumental practice high side he had over in Assen. Alex Marquez taking the checker flag at the end of that Dutch Grand Prix in 5th place. Lewis right up there won a ride this season.
Yeah, my mind goes back to this race last year when he finished second, despite recently returning from an injury. I think that was a more impressive ride 2 weeks ago in Assen. It was a race where his plan going in, well, he said himself, his plan was to stop with 10 laps to go to manage his physical condition, because you might recall he sat out qualifying on the Saturday, took a 12th place start on the grid and decided to save some energy for the sprint. But with riders dropping out ahead of him and instant ahead of him, and all of a sudden the top 6 result on offer, Alex Marquez decided to keep going, to put himself through the pain barrier, which we have seen him do in the past, and fight hard for that 5th place, to finish ahead of his brother Mark, to come within a lap of finishing ahead of Fabio Antonio and potentially the top Ducati too. A fine ride for Alex Marquez, given that he is nowhere near 100%, near a 50% fit.
Good recent record here as well for Alex. Podium here in 2024, the first time on that occasion. Of course, 2 brothers still on a MotoGP podium since the Oki brothers, and him all the way back in 1997, and he was second in the Grand Prix here last year. And what was a pretty memorable 100 Grand Prix star in MotoGP for Alex. It was his 50th podium at the time as well. 30 years of age now as Alex. I think he felt, he recognised the fact that Ducati going to look to a younger talent for their factory lineup to slot in alongside Mark. He said no qualms whatsoever. Pedro Costa was an obvious choice to jump into the factory team alongside Mark, despite the fact Alex recorded a super strong second in the World Championship last year. But at the age of 30, he felt like now was the time he really had to try and take on that responsibility. And of course, the perks that come with it, the track will be pretty handy as well. But to lead a factory, I think, was an opportunity that Alex, at the age of 30, just simply could not say no to. And when KTM came knocking.
Yeah, he of course was a factory rider at the start of his career, but this the first time he genuinely led a factory in MotoGP, and he and Fabio Antonio will be charged with the task of leading KTM back to Grand Prix success. Speaking of KTM, we've had another crash there for Maverick Vinales, who was kicking a bit of broken KTM away from what will, by the looks of the corner, he's cracked up be a pretty high-speed spurt.
Yeah, that's a big game. That's about the biggest field you can have here in the Sachsenring. Let's just track Vinales then through turn 11 we go. The fight was in the second leg, wasn't it? He flung it onto the right-hand side. It looked like maybe just a little bit of twitch on the rear, just put a bit too much weight over the front. And Vinales along for the ride.
Maverick Vinales, speed crash of the Sachsenring feels like this.
Well, he really does. And Maverick Vinales, well, it looks like he's heading for what appears to be a rather acrimonious divorce with Tech3 and KTM at the end of the season, because once again, Maverick has not been shy about airing his views on his current contractual situation, or lack of, with Gunther Steiner's French-based team and the Austrian factory. That is a very expensive crash that Maverick Vinales, as our camera just about keeps up with his RC16, which has barrel rolled through the gravel trap on it several times. That's a wrecked KTM, a budget buster there for Gunther Steiner. And once again, that hits so early on Maverick Vinales. Lewis, yesterday, Maverick Vinales venting his frustration about his situation, his future with the media, said that kind of resigned to the fact that he's not going to run the grid in 2027. He said, I'm burnt out, I feel like maybe I am ready to step away from the sport, but once again, KTM and Tech3 are on the receiving end of his wrath.
Yeah, he essentially suggested that he'd signed a contract and was sent down to him around about Magello time, and that contract was being taken off the table once again from KTM. Whether that was around the point that he made those rather far comments a couple of weeks ago, only KTM can truly answer that, as we're watching Toprak Razgatlioglu go wide into turn 1. Perhaps keeping you off the gravel? No, he does briefly head through that deep gravel trap at turn 1. But it is a shame for Maverick Vinales, not only if it's KTM stint ends in this way, but what looks like being potentially his MotoGP career too, Maverick Vinales, who has still got so much to offer, but he's only 31 years of age, but hasn't really been the same rider since that nasty shoulder injury he sustained right here in Q2 when he crashed coming into turn 4 in that rain-affected qualifying session last year. And sadly, from Maverick Vinales' point of view, he won't like hearing it, but KTM haven't seen Maverick operate at his top level since then. And for those reasons, that they've, I guess they can't feel that they can trust him to offer him a 2-year contract.
Hard to believe it. It looks like that PP crash we had here last year potentially was the beginning of the end of the Vinales Grand Prix career. The Top Gun has been misfiring pretty much ever since that wet qualifying crash here last year. He suffered all kinds of lingering issues with the left shoulder. I don't really feel like it ever repaired itself. He had to go on the knife once again every year on the season. Then there was a screwball as well. Marc Marquez at least is back in action after his early tip-off at turn 3. He took a lot more than that to knock Mark out of his stride around a Sachsenring circuit, which he has pretty much made his own throughout his Grand Prix career. Astonishing record. 12 victories. Is he going to get around turn 3 on this occasion? Certainly is. Yeah, not entertaining running over the curve and cutting that tight inside line this time around, was he, Mark? It was on just his 3rd lap of the weekend. So a little bit of pause.
No better tour guide around the Sachsenring than Marc Marquez, albeit it's not been the most straightforward mornings for the king of the Sachsenring so far this weekend, but that is what a wrap of this compact to quirky Sachsenring circuit looks like on board the reigning world champion, who is very much back in the game because they retain that title. Is this the weekend where Marc Marquez's comeback gathers some further momentum? Of course, he can't lead the World Championship out this weekend. He's 40 points back with 37 on offer, but he could get himself right into the thick of the action with that top 4 covered by 25 points if he can claim a maximum score here.
So he was in safe mode in Assel, and it was a safe mode that he operated very, very well, because Marc Marquez went into the Grand Prix of the Netherlands 40 points off and leading the World Championship, and left it 40 points off and leading the World Championship. So they didn't lose any ground in terms of top spot in the standings. Did he mark it? Either had this down as a banker, fully fit or not. We've already eyed this one as being a potential maximum 37.4. Well, sadly, no Fermi Naldiger joining us here this weekend with his back injury from the big practice crash in Assel. So far, so good for Alex Marquez, as he currently leads the standings and is really busy in the transfer market with the arrival of next. Plenty of chat to the battle of the boss.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a busy couple of weeks, Michaela, for you and the Gresini team. Let's firstly focus on the new signings. Joan Mir in particular, of course, a MotoGP world champion. That is a signature signing for the Gresini squad. We spoke to him yesterday and he pointed out 2 key things as to why he wanted to sign for the team. Firstly, the job that you guys have done with both Alex and Marc Marquez. Very much a similar story moving across from Honda. But also, he said he spoke at length with Frankie Carcetti, the man that he won the World Championship with in 2020. How exciting he is to team up with him again. He feels as though it's a match made in heaven for Joan to come across with all of his talent, and you guys to try and do the same job that you've done 2 or 3 times now.
Yeah, really proud and excited for the 2027 lineup, because I think that our focus was always to be a completely new project that means a top rider from Juan Carlos Damir, a rookie that a rookie in a way that will collaborate more than ever with Ducati, with the factory guys. new bikes to understand immediately with the new tires. And I think that it's a mix of ingredients that we looking forward a lot to extract the maximum. And as you said, for the drum near side, it's a piece that when we can put together the old and good experience together, this is the way to start. In the best way, a new season with a new rider, and we are very, very excited.
It of course means that Fermin Aldeguer will leave the team despite remaining under contract with the taxi. A lot of people have seen that news and are quite surprised, given the relationship that you built with Fermin, the relationship he's built with Frankie. So when you were informed that Fermin wouldn't be with you next year, what was the team's reaction?
I think that this is more a Ducati decision, and I think that the best is to speak deeply with them about that, but we are happy to stay here with Fermin because he's really a good guy and a huge talented rider, and I think that I have always to say that we miss him too much. We hope that he can back soon, because I think that we have more to show on track from the after the back.
And just finally on Alex, who once again will be out this weekend, which we've just said on commentary. Performance of the day in Athens, to finish in the top 5, given how he was feeling, how his body was. It was just a remarkable effort from Alan.
Yeah, it feels better, and I think that the race in Athens on Sunday was over the expectation of everybody here, but you know, a rider comes every time at the track to extract the maximum, not to be a part of the race like Alex. And I think that here we are more in the shape, not at 100%, but it's true, and you can already see in the time that the speed is there again.
And we're just stood in front of Fermin Aldeguer's bike, which has the special livery, which we'll see throughout the weekend. I don't know if you guys at home have managed to see it yet, but this for me is up there with one of the best MotoGP liveries we've seen for some time. It's taken inspiration from Sete Gibernau, Telefonica, Movistar, Honda, who of course took it to great success here at the Sachsenring 20 plus years ago, as we've seen it celebrate 30 years in MotoGP. This is a special looking machine, Michael.
Honestly, I have the good chance to look at this bike, because as you know, this year we celebrate the 30th season of the European racing, and we put on track the most from our times in the Moto3, and we are really proud to show that and to run with the delivery on time for everyone.
Looks absolutely spectacular. Let's hope it's fast now. Good luck, Michael.
I hope so.
Thanks, Jack. Thank you, Rodriguez Mercado City. Yeah, we saw brief on screens that absolutely beautiful livery for the Brazilian team. They turned Alex Marquez into MotoGP winner. They turned Anea Bastianini into MotoGP winner. They turned Fermin Aldeguer into a MotoGP winner, and they turned Fabio Antonio into a MotoGP winner. Did they, the Italian team, who have a habit of finding the winning formula in MotoGP, that will continue to replace Lamir and Danny Holgado are hoping for. As things are moving at the top of the leaderboard, as you can see on screen. Despite that little tip-off at turn 3, we said he's going to take more than that to knock Marc Marquez out of the stride here with the Sachsenring, but Marc now leads with a 1:20.880. Ducati have taken the last 5 poles here in Germany. They've locked out the last 3 Grand Prix podiums, and they lock out the top 3 once again. This has been a very, very happy hunting ground in recent years for the Bordeaux Panigale brand.
Well, as Marquez pointed out himself yesterday, there's one record he does not hold around here at the Sachsenring, and that is the all-time. That record, that belongs to this man, Fabio Antonio. On Friday afternoon of last year, he did a 1:19.071 just before the rain came, of course, for Saturday, which saw that record go unbeaten for the last July. So there's no question that Fabio Antonio could be a thorn in.
We're happy to go low profile. We're happy to be low key in terms of strategy. We're happy that nobody's really looking at us as serious contenders. Let Marc Marquez, Roy Martin and Marco Bezzecchi hog all the headlines in terms of that particular point. You know, Cavalietto has been sort of banging that drum as well about Fabio Di Antonio.
16 points.
16 points, and it's nothing. It is absolutely nothing. One of 4 riders this weekend have a chance of going into some break, leading the World Championship, as we mentioned. Martin, Bezzecchi, Di Antonio and I are a split by just 25 points. 37, of course, the maximum available. In Brazil, in Jerez, and the win in Catalunya, a whole other bunch of top 5 finishes for Fabio Di Antonio. No question about it, he is a serious, genuine, bona fide title contender.
And impressive, given that certainly Acid was almost a bit of a microcosm of Di Antonio's 2026 season, of recovering from a poor start or poor first lap to the Grand Prix. Di Antonio was 9th at the end of lap 1 before he recovered in the end, particularly in the latter part of the race after that long lap penalty for the shortcut at the chicane to take 4th place. All I've enjoyed was a neutral from this season so far. We saw it in Brazil, we saw it in Austin, we saw it very recently, of course, in Assen. Is any opportunity Fabio
only the Sunday Grand Prix so far this year, the figure has not finished inside the top 6 with that top place in Hungary. And of course, Charles will know Borders only got cleaned out and the Martin instigated melee and chaos at the only corner. By 121 just there. Marco Bezzecchi, who is still going to be feeling incredibly beaten up after what has to have been the biggest crash of his Grand Prix career. We've all seen the trackside replays, we've all seen the social media fan views as Marc Marquez passed wide with Ducati down through turn 7. That's all 4th gear through there. Multiple barrel rolls through the double track for Marco Bezzecchi. How on earth? I'm not even sure himself how he got away without any kind of serious injury. When he spoke to media yesterday, he said, yeah, I was pretty fortunate. I was quite lucky to get away without any kind of major injury. What he said was, my body was like an accordion. Yeah, I mean, it was a rush and tumble, wasn't it, for Marco Bezzecchi, who just has to try and find a way to keep steady the ship. There's been choppy waters of late, particularly on Sundays, for the 27-year-old Italian, who has lost 69 points to Marc Marquez in the last 3 rounds, 63 points he surrendered to fellow Tour rider Aya Agura, and for the first time since the Open Grand Prix in Thailand, he comes into the weekend not at the top of the standings.
No rider would be looking forward to a few weeks of rest like Marco Bezzecchi, who said yesterday that his arms were the only part of his body that weren't hurting. The rest of the week, he's not going to do any training, he's not going to ride a bike, he simply had the various medical checks to ensure that he could come here to the Sachsenring. Bezzecchi 4th though in this section, so I think he'll be fairly pleased at the moment with how his one is going, and he hasn't been limiting his running at all so far. He's done 12 laps, which is as many as Marquez, as many as Di Antonio, and several others so far in this session. He is the first non-Ducati that do currently lock out the top 3. So I think this is a weekend, as mentioned earlier on, where the Bezzecchi mindset will surely be a little bit different. Rather than attacking and going for victories and trying to extend the World Championship lead, he's not really thinking about regaining the World Championship lead this weekend. He's just trying to get out of here with as many points as possible. Possibly the same sort of mindset that Marc Marquez had at Assen.
Yeah, Marco Bezzecchi has taken his DNF count up to 6 already so far this season, which is exactly the same amount as he had in the whole of 2025, and he did 22 Grand Prix, so he's been on the deck a little bit too more than he would have wanted so far this season. Has Fez, as we look at Di Antonio. We've got 2 riders this morning which found a sub-121 lap, and of course who else could it be but Marc Marquez. Coco de Bez, though, he did something in the Sachsenring sprint here last year, in the wet Sachsenring sprint, that not too many riders have been able to do in this German Grand Prix of late, and that's lead Marc Marquez for a fair period of time. He led every lap in the sprint, last year did best, apart from the most important one, the last of them all. Unfortunately, he was locked in for a second place behind Mark in the Grand Prix. He crashed out at the first corner. Did qualify on the front row of the grid here, so it was a strong Grand Prix here last year for the Italian.
Montecati's 1, 2 and 3, with Aprilia 4th for the moment. Honda 5th, Tranmere, who of course will not be a Honda rider next year. Then we've got KTM's 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th. And Maverick Vinales has at least rebuilt his session somewhat. He's gone back out onto the racetrack on his other KTM and put himself straight up into the top 6.
What about Pedro Acosta, who is another rider that's looking to just emerge from this German Grand Prix with a decent point haul, having had the back-to-back DNFs in Brno and in Assen. After tunnel surgery immediately after the Grand Prix of the Netherlands. Under the knife was Pedro Acosta, was pulling the tide in Assen as he had that sort of tingling sensation, the lack of feeling and numbness in the right hand, when I think most of the world thought, oh no, not again. The KTM has conked out once again. We saw Acosta's needed to this yesterday. He got about an inch-long scar on the sort of bottom palm of his right hand. He said the good news is it seems like the surgery has been a success, because the last year or so, he's been waking up in the night and he's had that tingling feeling in his hand since the surgery. That has not returned. Well then, Yamaha, as we suspected, have been very busy in the 2027 riding market, and what a lineup they've been able to secure. Jorge Martin and Ayagur will be replacing Fabio Quartararo and Alex Lee. That is some lineup for the Iwata factory moving forward in the Milan this year. Let's get some thoughts from the Yamaha camp on those big moves. I would like to say my American Jack.
Yeah, it does indeed. Busy morning down in pit lane as we try and cover off all of the 2027 news. And as the guy said, Maya, the lineup for next year is arguably as strong as any as we've seen announced so far. Riders currently first and fourth in the World Championship. It's not the greatest moment in Yamaha's MotoGP history. So how did you manage to convince those riders to leave the manufacturer at the top of the constructors' standings to join Yamaha that are currently sat off?
We need to convince them. We are extremely satisfied of the job that we were able to do, and as you can imagine, we are really excited in new season with a lot of new things, not only the rider lineup. But we still have a lot of races in 2026 before the end.
A genuine possibility that you could have the #1 place on one of your bikes next year. Given the season you're currently been remarkable, have you stopped for a second and just considered that thought that you could have the world champion in your box next year?
Yeah, for sure we are considering this possibility. But I think for a team it's better to hold or to get the #1 inside, not coming from outside. So this is for sure we are a lot of optimism for the next season, but as I said before, we are now really focused on this current season. We are, as you can see, we are keep developing the bike. We just introduced the last aerodynamic homologation, with which we had a really good test in Barcelona, which is just proving that we will keep working until the end of the season. And this will be not the last update.
Yeah, and add to that as well, we can see some of the swing arm attachments as well, some aerodynamic parts on there that we've seen Aprilia used to good effect. You say Yamaha will keep working, but obviously we now know that both Fabio and Alex will both be leading the team at the end of the year, so there's still half the year to go. How much of a challenge is it to keep both of them motivated to push this project to the limit?
Yeah, it's, I think they are all professional riders, as we are a professional. The aim is just to try to improve the performance and to get from both the best results as possible.
Maya, thanks for your time. Have a great weekend.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Factory Yamaha boss by Morigani. Frankie Morgan becomes the latest victim of the turn 3 curse. It looked like he got caught really by surprise. They didn't even lost the rear on gas coming out of turn 3. Frankie was able to quickly mount a trackside scooter. Amazing thing, isn't it? This Grand Prix 4 years ago now, in 2022, was the last time we saw Yamaha victorious in the MotoGP World Championship. More points produced on that occasion by the man we're looking at on screen right now, Fabio Quartararo. 4 years without a win for the beleaguered Iwata factory. Last time out in Assen, with Fabio Quartararo and Alex Rins finishing inside the top 10 together. That was the first time in 14 Grand Prix since Bangaluka last year that both factory Yamahas have finished inside the top 10. It has been a slump for the in terms of fortune for Yamaha. Their lead rider in the championship at the moment is Fabio Quartararo, 14th in the standings, 45 points on the opening 10 Grand Prix. I mean, it's been a shocking 2026, hasn't it, for the Iwata factory.
The only snip of a win you can say they've had in that 4-year period was Quartararo leading the British Grand Prix last year before ride height device issues truly robbed him of what would have been true victory. There, seeing Fabio Quartararo struggle for motivation, certainly struggle to put a smile on his face. We've seen in the very recent past Quartararo's body language, his anger boiling over on board the motorcycle, but Quartararo has demonstrated no lack of loyalty to Yamaha. He's been a Yamaha rider for his entire MotoGP career. I think he also feels it's time for a bit of a change, perhaps from Yamaha point of view. A fresh lineup could also do them good, of course. Quartararo speaking yesterday, he said, "I've got nothing to hide, but I can't confirm to you where I'm going yet." I don't think there are many secrets in this paddock as to where that is.
Yeah, it's au revoir and Yamaha next year for Fabio Quartararo. 4 years since the Japanese factory were left on the top step of the podium in the longest Baron runs in their history. Look at Marc Marquez about to venture out on circuit for his latest stint. His first 13 laps were eventful, a fast at turn 3 and the fastest lap of day 1 so far from the reigning world champion. We've seen Jorge Martin jump up from 5th to 6th place. Martin undefeated in the sprints here. Of course, he didn't race here last year. It was Morbidelli getting caught out at turn 3 as well. It was a nasty one to Frankie. You saw his reaction there as he came to wrestling. Galachad, he wasn't expecting that at all. Look at him, he didn't feel like he was doing anything wrong. Nothing out of the ordinary. There was a moment there as well for Pecco Bagnaia. So yeah, on power. There's a little part of the exit of turn 3 which is certainly grabbing the attention of the world's best.
Marquez certainly not immune to that. Marquez can make that sort of mistake around the Sachsenring, then just about anyone can make that mistake. We've also had a high-speed crash driving Pinades elsewhere on the circuit at turn 11. As I mentioned earlier on, it's the right-handers weirdly that you often crash it around here, even though the vast majority of this circuit, 3/4 of it, you are spent going left. At the moment, Marc Marquez rolling into this section of the 1:28.0. We have 3 Ducatis followed by an Aprilia, a Honda and another Aprilia down to Jorge Martin in that 6th place. Who's further down the track or not to be? We've got Pecco Bagnaia down in 15th place at the moment. He's another rider which he had a bit of a moment at turn 3, albeit not a crash. There was Bagnaia, another rider to lament a lack of good luck back at the Dutch Grand Prix when once again mechanical misfortune cost him a bucketload of points, which if you have them all up might well have put Bagnaia in the title picture himself.
Yeah, 10th Grand Prix being after the last 17 for the 29-year-old Italian. He shut the media down yesterday when they were asking him for the reason for his premature retirement from the Dutch Grand Prix. He said Truck's airport lips are sealed. He's now Pecco, of course. Congratulations to all the Bagnaia family and friends. Save the arrival of their son. Congratulations to Pecco and his wife, Dimitria. As John Muir then looking to pick up a spot here maybe late on in this session. We'll take the factory on the left and start with a rather rapid climb up into the finish line here. A short run to the finish line. He picks up 2 places. It's getting better in that last set before he preceded the Ducati-bound Spaniard. Near them, the 3rd rider to find a lap in the 120 this morning. Just 6 hundredths are now covering Marc Marquez, with Antonio and Mia.
front medium front and rear for Mir. Brand new soft front medium rear for Jack Miller on the Pramac Yamaha as he now tackles the final corner, the Quackenberg corner, and Miller about to head with four front with himself. Is he? No, not quite. Big place there on a 121, 184. He is now your leading Yamaha this morning.
Always happy to be back in this part of the world. There's Jack, who made his Grand Prix debut here at the Sachsenring all the way back in 2011. And I'm sure there's a bit of jet lag is kicking in right now for the 31 on the Euro train, because he's been racking up the air miles over the last few weeks or so. Last weekend, he was over in Japan, putting the Yamaha on the podium in the prestigious Suzuka 8-hour endurance race. What looked like a very wet appearance, really. No, how good Jack is. A bit of a rain specialist. Looked like he had a lot of fun over in Suzuka. More impressive matches for Miller, though. Where will he be in 2027? In the big Ridley Shuffle for the new 850cc engine here? It looks like Jack Miller will be one of several current riders that are going to be left standing without a seat. We've talked about Maverick Vinales and his ongoing frustrations with KTM. It looks like Brad Binder will be missing on this ride next year. Frankie Mulliday looks like he's on his way out as well. Alex Rins confirmed that he's seeking a ride in World Superbikes next year. One of the rumours that's picking up some momentum here in Germany, Frankie Mulliday might be what is effectively a drop swap with Nicola Kluliger, the current dominant World Superbike champion. We know that Kluliger from Scotland will be our boys with Ducati here in this paddock. And it looks like over at a Ruben Ducati World Superbikes, well, they're sniffing around Mullider's signature. I find a very, very difficult task of replacing Kluliger in 2027.
Undefeated World Superbike champion. So far, I've mentioned there in the Park this weekend, where the rest of the field we're hoping to change that.
He hasn't lost a race this year because of cleaning the World Ducati last time out. Kluliger, I mean, he's raced against the Clone of Ducati's talent in World Superbikes and in MotoGP. And he cleaned that one as well in Lozano last weekend. Well, it looked like a fantastic event at World Ducati Week. Ducati's annual soiree, which is always very popular. Of course, more significant this time around because they're celebrating their 100th centenary year. Great to see the likes of Peter Legend, Katie Stone was present, Carl Fogarty was there, Troy Valence was there. Franklin Williams said that they had a lot of fun. Malcolm Anderson was enjoying life this morning on fresh rubber, as you can see. The winner of the Aston Sprint, second to his teammate Aguirre last time out the Netherlands. Is your quickest rider so far this morning with a 1:20.829. He is on a brand new soft front medium rear. He's going to go slightly quicker on that occasion, though not quite. It's a 1:20.90 from Fernandez.
Miller once again riding at the first three sectors. It's not a power circuit, the Sachsenring, but if there is a sector of this circuit where you might feel the lack of power, the man is getting the waterfall down to the final two corners, and once again Miller does lose a chunk of time, 2/10 to the final sector, a 1:21 exactly for Miller, puts him in quick place, but also the best four sectors for his team at the top rank for Joan Mir and for Alex Marquez at the moment. Of course, so fine margins around such a short layout. A second virtually covers 19 riders.
Qualifying always super important around the Sachsenring, not easy to find highly favourable. Good overtaking Oscar, particularly on the brakes in the first corner, continuing down the hill into the Saxon third turn. So you have to be pretty precise. Otherwise it's picked up on the fact of qualifying. Perhaps carrying a little bit of extra significance this weekend. Because this weekend, of course, here in Germany, is the first time we've had the new grid layout in response to some early dramas we've had in Catalonia and in Hungary this year. Each row on the grid has been extended from 9 to 12 metres. That comes into effect here at the Sachsenring for the first time in 2026. In addition to the regulations, we saw front whole truck devices were banned from Assen onwards. But yeah, for the first time this weekend, we'll see that extended 3-metre gap between rows in play for the first time this weekend.
It's got a pretty long run down to the first corner here. We're pretty honest with it now with Marquez at the grid. It's about a halfway down the main straight. Marquez is going over it now. They can see the grid layout. So 3 to a row. That hasn't changed for this weekend or beyond. Further, as Matt mentioned, change to the configuration of the bikes in Assen with a hope of making start safer, and now change the spacing of the grid. We'll be demonstrating that on screen. We'll get to graphic demonstration of what's different.
Whole bunch of riders were set up fast first sections. Lads Gaglioglu, Mornicelli, Ralph Fernandez, Binder, Mia, Acosta. Might even say who hasn't just stepped there fastest first section of this session. It looks like there's been some great rubber thrown in here late on as we move into the final 60 seconds and the final minute of this FP1 session here in the Grand Prix of Germany. It is advantage of Ralph Fernandez, who is riding the crest of the wave right now. He's looking to build on that serious momentum he gained with the sprint win and the second place in the Aston Grand Prix. Discount Fernandez, the potential championship dark horse. He's looked in great nick already so far here at the Sachsenring.
Yeah, well, of course, so much of the talk is about Marc Marquez, given his record at the Sachsenring and the opportunity for Marc Marquez to inject some fresh life into his championship defence. But the others, his rivals have got to look at this as a real opportunity this weekend to potentially do the reverse, like the difference it could make to their World Championship chance if they could beat Marc Marquez at the Sachsenring. We heard from Davide Tardozzi around about a month ago when he said that this potentially could be the point where Marc Marquez is unable to attack. He's in potentially a better physical state. Mark said yesterday that he definitely needs a different mindset from what he was at Silverstone. The question that the Aprilia is much closer to Ducati than it was here last year when Marco Bezzecchi was approached second in the sprint and would have been second in the Grand Prix had he not crashed. So Aprilia in particular, they must see this weekend themselves as an opportunity to once again demonstrate how strong their package is by challenging, if not beating, Marc Marquez here.
Stop there to listen to that Aprilia scene through turn 11. What an onboard that was. What an onboard shot that was with Ralph Fernandez. Sometimes before the Sachsenring gets a bit of a bad rap because it's, you know, it can be notoriously tight and twisty. But when you look at how the track opens up when you come out of turn 6, through 7, 4th gear, turn 8, 3rd gear of 150 kilometers an hour, 4th gear through 9, 10, up to 52 k's to 11, 5th gear down the hill at about 300 k's before you break into the 3rd gear, turn 12. There's a lot of this Sachsenring circuit which is idea at high speed as we follow Marc Marquez out the final corner. This is another actually where he started all the time, wasn't it, as he came over the line. He'd be loving to do a bit more of the same here this weekend. Marc Marquez though is going to close out FP1 here. Not in P1, which is his normal standard territory here at the Sachsenring, but a very close second behind Ralph Fernandez. He has built on that on a brilliant weekend over in Assen. Marco Bezzecchi, well, that was just what the doctor ordered. A safe, clean but fast session from Marco Bezzecchi. The 8th fastest for both with a 1:21.317, just over half a second back of the fastest Aprilia.
We saw there on screen he had brand new soft and medium tyres when he set his best lap, but his best lap did come on his very first run of the morning, his 7th lap, Marco Bezzecchi, 21.370, and the fact that he didn't limit his mileage in any way, shape or form with 21 laps in that session could only be good news for Marco Bezzecchi. With all of that team, with some questions that he wants answered as he returns to the box at the end of the session that he completed in P2.
Willing here on Ducati in the past around the Sachsenring. His 2 previous sprint appearances, he's won both. He was winner of the Grand Prix here in 2023. He really should have made it back-to-back wins in 2024. And he passed out of the lead late on, ahead of Pecco Bagnaia. What we felt was potentially a critical moment in their title fight a couple of years ago. Yeah, Roy Martin said yesterday they had to find something in the factory of Finnish club this weekend because they were completely overshadowed and outperformed, weren't they, by the trackhouse pairing of Ralph Fernandez and Ayagura. Martin was fast, he was strong and fast in Assen, but just not as strong and as not as fast as 2 of the Aprilias out on circuit. Yeah, 10th place in that session then for Martinator.
You'd offered him this situation at the start of the season, he would have surely taken your hand off though when he spotted across his partner mate Jack. So I didn't know if I was even going to start the season on time. Of course, after the additional surgery he had in the winter break, which caused him to pancake. Martin arriving in our 11th round of this 22-round championship with a 7-point lead over Marco Bezzecchi, but of course the leading threat of reigning champion Marc Marquez 40 points back in fifth place. The start session will give us a bit of a window then into how starts will look from the Sachsenring onwards, with the suspension of the grid, an extra metre between each spot on each row, which therefore means a 3-metre gap from one row to the next.
Of the rest in that actual Grand Prix, doing some cutting of hair inside the track out of full garage. As you can see there on screen, the background is Gucci Giovanni Macarola, who had to lose his beard. It's both his winning definitely MotoGP. I think that I took the clippers to his facial hair, and we've seen there's a long-standing bet between I and his data analysis Andy Griffiths inside the track house garage. He has not cut his hair, but I'm not going to cut my hair until I win his first Grand Prix. Well, of course, we saw the Grand Prix in the Netherlands. His long locks have gone, and once again in the clippers it was I that started with the shaving, and Andy Griffiths will now in an impression. Looks a lot more like me now, to be fair.
Yeah, for the Hulk Hogan impression being done yesterday. Yeah, in part they've gone. I feel like the best option might be just to shave the lot off in a particular instance, but just goes to show what a great atmosphere that they've built down there at Trackhouse. Of course, led for the rest of this year by Davide Brivio. Of course, Francisco Prudentia Pucci was the new team manager. He'll, I guess, officially, publicly take the full reins of that team from next year onwards. But Brivio certainly, as you heard this morning, very involved.
Nice. Beautiful rolling stoppy there. Yeah, somebody has got a view of the start and finish line here in the Sachsenring. Enjoyed that one. A nice little wave there because Fabio Quartararo, brilliant rolling stoppy. That's his practice start point. That was superb. Love that from Fabio. Of course, with whole shot devices now a thing of the past in MotoGP. Good launch that by Morero. Nice one by Velasco Aliogra, who we saw there in the background. What about Jorge Martin? A clean for scene from the Spaniard, but not bad nevertheless.
49 on the inside line there as he chose the good spot on the riders. Right, here's Fabio Gian Antonio. Launched in on the R46 captain, very good from the front tyre of his bike. Of course, really is something he's suffered with, even when he has had the front ride device engaged early on in the year.
Davide Brivio, the watchers are probably still pinching himself. So too the boss, Justin Marks, who was watching Assen over in California, giving a close eye on his car racing project, where they've been enjoying all the success as well. I can still quite believe what happened when Montpellier to the Netherlands. Marc Marquez, side box, infectable. I don't think Frankie can't really as that enamoured with Frankie. The next to him in the practice start, with a shrug of the shoulder from the world champion.
Well, Frankie certainly followed Marc Marquez's route to Moto3 earlier on in the session, both down at the Omega curve. Morbidelli get himself up to the end, got himself into 9th place right at the end of the session with a 1:21.381.
Start then for Fabio Quartararo. Yeah, that was neat. That was a nice one from the number 20. Ace in the Assen Grand Prix was his first of that Catalunya Grand Prix. Once again, I think back-to-back pretty impressive starters from the 007 and top up Lasgat Lioglu.
Pekka Bagnaia, who's not quite pulled up into pole position there. Pole position is what he's just riding through. A solid one for Bagnaia, as always. Weekend for the free session, no points awarded for fastest on a Friday morning. So Bagnaia fans watching around the world, of which there are several of you, don't be too worried by Pecco. Pecco has won our form again in 2019. He was chasing that last tour this morning.
Impeding anybody or disturbing anybody as they go for their second practice starts. Gets themselves all ready. What a weekend it was for Fernandez in Assen, of course, fresh off the back of the nasty bout of appendicitis which at one stage threatened his place on the grid in both the North and in the Netherlands, and he had to undertake surgery to remove that troublesome appendix, so that would have ruled him out of those two Grand Prix, where he really did find himself back into world championship contention. couple of strong top tens in Brno, and the brilliant double podium in Athens. Marco Bezzecchi makes a clean getaway. Surely, mission number one for Benz this weekend is just to make sure that he sees a pair of checker flags, which he hasn't been able to see too often, particularly on Sundays of late. And you throw in there as well the fact he's had 4 sprint winners so far this season as well.
It's been prizes, ultimately, at the end of the day, and Marco Bezzecchi has been rather short upward in the last 3 Grand Prix. Of course, if he wants to look at his glass Mark 4, he can just think back to Jorge Martin earlier on in the season when he went to Brno with 2 long lap penalties to serve and the fear of losing World Championship points. 2 races later, Martin has taken over leadership of the World Championship. It could quite easily swing back in Bezzecchi's direction.
Stop. Please stop is what Fabio Quartararo is saying to himself inside the helmet on that factory Yamaha. That is a real tough tricky braking zone into that first corner. You come over a bit of a crest when you're grabbing a handful of braking. It just takes a whole load of weight off the rear tyre. We've seen spectacular shots of rear tyres a foot and a half, if not higher, in the air. Of course, then you risk overpowering the front, overload the front, and washing the front end out into that downhill off camber turn 1. Doesn't look much really in terms of a perilous zone around the Sachsenring circuit. First gear 75 kilometres an hour mid-corner. But getting into it is one of the toughest challenges you'll face here at the Sachsenring. Marco Bezzecchi then. Front row of the grid, which is where we'll be hoping. On pole position, which is where we'll certainly be hoping he finds himself after qualifying tomorrow. Yeah, now he's now a couple of brilliant starts, hasn't he, on the 72 factory Aprilia's Bears.
The grid was exclusively reserved for Aprilia's. And it seemed that they took that historic top 4 lockout of the first row and a third of the MotoGP race back in Assen, which they did then translate into a double podium on the Sunday. Bezzecchi, though, the one Aprilia rider, not to see the checkered flag.
Yeah, it was a strange scenario, wasn't it, in Assen a couple of weeks ago, because you felt of the Aprilia quartet, the weakest, the slowest on the Grand Prix of Wembley was Jorge Martin. He came out of it leading the World Championship. Funny old game, isn't it, the MotoGP World Championship?
Aprilia coming out of a weekend where they're locked out the podium, almost feeling slightly disappointed and feeling as if their World Championship challengers potentially taking a bit of a knock with Bezzecchi's recent early summer slump.
Yeah, having never had a podium lockout in their history prior to 2026, Aprilia now had 2 in the last 6 Grand Prix. Namely, on the first occasion over in Le Mans, when Jorge Martin did win his first Grand Prix for the Nawali factory. Bit of food for follow for the Martinator after that session. Just finds himself 6/10 of a second back in 10th place, only Aprilia behind him. Isaiah Gura, who seems to have returned to type with the Fridays. There's been a couple of strong Fridays in both Brno and Assen, certainly FP1s for Gura. Down in 17th place, not a happy hunting ground this for the Japanese rider. The DNF in the Grand Prix here last year, he was 17th over the line in the sprint. No points here last year for Agura. He was playing down his chances. Get more success here this weekend. When I spoke to him in the pre-event press conference, he said if I can get away here with a couple of top 6s, that is job very well done.
He was certainly not choosing 100 words when 10 would do. Yesterday was Agura in that particular press conference. Yeah, he joined that one club that included Marco Bezzecchi last year here at Sachsenring when Agura went down and took Juan Mir with him. Agura then in 17th place in that morning session. He said his best lap of a 1:21.7 right at the very end.
Just the one podium in 7 previous appearances in Grand Prix for Agura here. That was a third. It proved crucial as he went on to win the World Championship Moto2 back in 2024. Marco Bezzecchi then looking at the championship standings and coming into a Grand Prix weekend for the first time since Thailand, not leading. 7 points and nothing in it. A very, very narrow gap between himself and his factory Aprilia teammate Jorge Martin. But the impetus has swung in favour of the Spaniard inside the factory Aprilia garage. Knocking at the door once again. I mean, how many times have we said this so far this season? A weekend kicks off with Bigia inside the top three. You can put your mortgage, can't you, on Fabio Di Giannantonio being in that battle every session, every sprint, every Grand Prix, top 5, top 6, if not better.
Top of the lot though this morning was the 25, Ralph Hernandez, keeping up this incredible run for Trackhouse after their pair of 1-2s in Assen. Fastest in pre-practice one from King of the Sachsenring, Marc Marquez. Second, Di Giannantonio, as mentioned, third ahead of first of the Hondas. Juan Mir, who got himself into the 120 point. Jack Miller fifth for Pramac Yamaha ahead of Alex Marquez, who led early on. Alex Rees seventh ahead of Bezzecchi, Morbidelli and Martin. Maverick Vinales recovered to 11th after an early high-speed crash to finish with the top KTM ahead of Acosta Binder and Bastianini. Quartararo 15th ahead of Copra Iagoro. Diogo Moreira, who set an identical time for 79, 18th ahead of Bagnaia and Marini. All the top 20 within a second. Cal Crutchlow, the one rider outside of a second after some early mechanical problems on his LCR Honda.
Back after Dorna Sports, which came out Fernandez and Miguel Rivera are on the front row of the grid here, were made back in 2024. But we've got a bit of a couple of gremlins we've crept into our graphic system. Back of the show. Ralph Hernandez, well, we know that his best time of 1:20.829 put him in P1 in that session. Let's jump straight to the best second then, shall we? Marc Marquez leads the way in the opening sprint ahead of Mir and Miller.
Sector 2 is where we start going left, and it's Alex Marquez quickest through there.
Ralph Hernandez making up some time in sector 3 ahead of Fidji and Bezzecchi.
And fastest 2 in sector 4 by just 1,000 from Marc Marquez.
Well, Ralph Hernandez at least in full working order as he leads FP1 here in the Grand Prix of Germany. What a time it is to be part of Trackhouse Aprilia right now. A double 1-2 for the American team last time out in Assen. And Raul on the prowl once again here at the Sachsenring. He leads FP1.
Magic. This is as good as racing gets. This is Dreamland, isn't it? A fourth performance. It's Ralph Hernandez who wins the sprint here in the Grand Prix of the Netherlands. Chapter 10, 2026 MotoGP World Championship. The Cathedral of Speed welcomes the world's fastest riders. It's the Grand Prix of the Netherlands. This lights out, and we're racing in MotoGP here. Martin has made a perfect start. Not that far with this, but Iagoro has been electric away from the line as well. Ralph Hernandez is going to pick off first in the turn 2. Martin does lead. It's the Aprilia 1-2-3-4. It's Martin in the front.
Oh, look at the inside for the doorstep. It's faced by his team.
That's Fernandez through Iagoro. It's beautiful by Fernandez.
perfect first lap by Martin, top pole, he leads by 6/10.
Fernandez and Agura goes outside again. Agura retakes it. And look at Marc Marquez sniffing on a GT6 second place.
That's the man of retaliate.
Bezzecchi runs forward in between the factory Ducati.
Bezzecchi has a monumental crash. Lost the front of the factory of Puglia and going to lose the lead in the World Championship. Marco Bezzecchi has been taken to medical attention. He has been reported conscious. Comes Agura on the inside of Marc Marquez. Acosta's going to fire on the inside of his future factory Ducati teammate. If you pass Marc Marquez, you better make sure you make the stick and dart away from the quicker, because she just know exactly what's coming at the very next corner. Ralph Fernandez, though, has got some serious early pace here. Acosta back on the inside of Marc Marquez into the first corner.
He knew that wasn't going to stop, but he just had to go for it. Yannick does now make the move.
Oh no.
Well, Acosta, another Pedro Acosta, KTM no. Taking his hand there.
Oh, he's got arm pump. He might have arm pump, you know.
Pedro Acosta is out of this Grand Prix.
It's got to on the front of Bagnaia. Now Pecco Bagnaia's Ducati has gone prepared. Bagnaia's touring. Pecco Bagnaia is cruising. Agura's got ample time opening out. As Agura goes wide down.
Look, Sparks coming.
What's Agura?
He's up there, look, the car, hasn't it?
Wow.
Because the recent extra pages every move that
Look at the corner speed that Fernandez got through 15, and that has set himself up beautifully. What a move that is by Ralph Fernandez. The Martin could be losing second here as well. Agura surely going to attack him on the brakes into the first corner. He does so indeed, so a painful 4 corners that for Martin. A fairy tale weekend, the track house of Puglia. They are now 1-2 in this Grand Prix.
But Igor has no faults of the long-term picture at the moment. He wants a first win.
He needs an Agura now. Is this his moment? Is this his time?
But which Gian Antonio's going to force it. Of Marc Marquez.
As you can see there, Marc Marquez is getting on the setter.
One lap penalty for Fabio to Gian Antonio.
What a day we've had here in Aston. The first. What a weekend for Agura. A race day that Agura is never ever going to forget. Hassan, we love you. Pecco Bagnaia, what drive, we look back to the first to finish
His first sprint win of the season.
But that was brilliant, Bagnaia. That was awesome, Bagnaia. Welcome to Dorna, welcome to Chapter 9 in 2026 on a race day. The factory of Puglia has been banned from competing in today's race. Bezzecchi was involved in an altercation with a trackside marshal and he was hit with a race ban for today. The world's fastest riders are set for action here. The Czech Adrenaline Factory. We are placed for the Battle of Renault in 2026. Lights out of race with Renault in MotoGP. It's a superb launch away once again by Fabio Di Antonio. This time around has nailed the start. We've got the drop of the film, this long one down into the first corner. Marquez straight away through on Bagnaia up into third place. Marquez straight on the attack too on Fabio Di Antonio, fourth to third and now to second. He almost lost the rear there, but he squeezed the car from down through 3 and 4. He's lost the fourth place, he's lost 4 to Diogo Moreira. That's lovely, it's aggressive. Aguero getting to his rhythm. Once again, we'll try and attack back the hill into the squad corner. Paco Bagnaia leads. Marquez has got the inside line, nothing that Aguero can do. So a factory, the 51-2. So this, if it's all legal and above board, will Boy Martin taking his medicine. Marc Marquez, fastest rider on circuit, just starting to build up that pressure, turn of the whip on Bagnaia. Is coming down once again. Mark's not the close, goes into a backpacker. Aguero is coming. Aguero is on the charge. Here goes Marc Marquez down to his move. He has finally decided then it's time to break Bagnaia. Marc Marquez it is at least for the first time here in Brno. Dorna is coming from a long way back there. He knows he has to make the move. He just runs Bagnaia at wide. There's nothing that Bagnaia can do.
Bagnaia can now pack to pass the reigning world champion. As a pastry, some more KTM problems. On the last lap, Pedro Acosta retires from 5th place.
But look at this from Bagnaia. Is Aguero going to get Marc Marquez for the win? Is Digi going to get Bagnaia for the final place from the podium? Once again, we are looking at the 93 magician. This one is over. Through that final corner he goes. It's back wins in 2026 for Marc Marquez. It's back wins at Renault. Aguero in pole position does take 2 second places. By far his best weekend of his MotoGP career. Fabio Di Antonio sits the fastest lap of the race from the last lap, but can't take the podium and steal the 3rd place away from Bagnaia.
Marc Marquez, what do you need you to beat him?
This title race is on. What a sprint Saturday has been here in Balaton for the reigning world champion. Pole position to the sprint victory. What a return to action.
Marc Marquez, who has completely dominated this sprint.
Welcome to the Grand Prix of Hungary. Welcome to the Balaton Park circuit. Marc Marquez taking his 76th MotoGP pole position.
The rider on pole position is the rider to beat.
So here we go now. It's lights It's MotoGP here in the Grand Prix. Big wheels from there for Mark Marquez. He got the line. If you try to take down the place with Pedro Acosta on route to the first of the side. The Shay's taking full control. Big Air's being cleaned out. The top three in the World Championship are out of its Grand Prix.
Bezzecchi, Aldeguer, Gian Antonio and Fernandez.
At the front there, Mark Marquez has a quarter of a second lead over Pedro Acosta.
Yeah, just cruised to all the pass up in the third place. Marine sails wide, so he's given a fourth now to Jack Miller.
Acosta's losing on the inside of Mark Marquez. Pedro Acosta then leads here in Barton for the first time.
Acosta's been waiting for it out of that soft rear tyre, with Mark Marquez banking on that medium rear being the better long-term pick.
Clearly, instant that turn one is under investigation. Marco Bezzecchi then, basking in a super frustrated for Bez. Oh, look at that, wheel's almost down. No surprise there, we said that an air's going to likely cut along that penalty.
Now Dora's going on the attack, he's on the inside of Juan Mir.
Mark Marquez is trying to pound some serious pressure on Acosta here. He's all over the rear tyre of Acosta into 9 and 10, which again we go. Mark Marquez leads. Sideways on the brakes was Mark Marquez. Left the door open. Acosta finds his way through. Here comes Marquez and now attacking on the brakes once again. Chase on the brakes. Oh, it's a block back from Marquez. They're squeezing each other. Are they rubbing shoulders? This is the battle we have been waiting for. For Acosta versus Marquez is on. Is this going to be another time he's going to attack? It is. So this is successive laps. They've under 93. Has sent it on the inside of Acosta. They'll just want Acosta out with painwork. That was crucial. They've got his tactics spot on there, doing number 93, Mark Marquez. He is back at the front, and now already he has got daylight between himself and Acosta. Spabby continues to reign between Marini and Nagura.
Only once again held the inside of the racetrack, but then of course goes across the race line Nagura, and that's the brakes off. Desperately trying to get to the apex first, and this time he's able to park it in front of Luca Marini.
The reigning world champion, but just one corner left. Marquez has had a blast at Battle Park once again. He wins in Hungary to make it 100 wins for one very special rider, one very special talent. Costa takes second place. Patrick Gagnon is on the podium for the third race in succession. The Factory Ducati team reach essentially a wins. This World Championship defence is now well and truly up and running. We are at majestic Mugello road again. For Ralph Fernandez, 2 wins the TSH sprint here in Mugello. His first gold medal after a golden performance by the track out of Peru rider. Good afternoon and welcome one and all to the Brembo Grand Prix of Italy. Marco was going to stand if he wanted.
Trying to pick up some switching. He's going to go to attack players on the brakes into Sandanato. He's got the inside line. Is he going to get it stopped because there's a big hate there from Martin? He's going to run in hot. He's going to run in wide. Be careful here.
Marquez is fourth, so it's now second Pagani, Italian 1-2 at the Italian Grand Prix.
Here comes Bagnaia and through beyond Betty 1 and 2. He's going to be close enough to maybe show his will to Bezzecchi on the brakes into the final corner. Can he pick up some stitching on that factory canty?
It's Bagnaia about to lead the Italian Grand Prix as he goes to the left of Marco Bezzecchi, and Bagnaia does hit the front once again at Mugello.
Marquez comes in a little bit hot across to the back rider on second. Martin back up into P4, but Echo Bagnaia then leads here in front of his home crowd. Costa, this would have been a black pass there. He's on the inside of now Marquez. Is this finally a Costa potentially securing fourth place? As Bezzecchi really does close up on the rear tyre of Bagnaia. Here comes Bezzecchi, just building momentum. He's going to go to the inside line here. They go side by side. Bears versus Bagnaia. This is the moment, number 10 to go, where Marco Bezzecchi has decided this is his moment. So Marco Bezzecchi then back at the front here in Mugello. Martin's going to gobble up Bagnaia very, very quickly. Surely this is going to be a fairy tale 1-2 here. Fair play to Bagnaia. He's really trying to tough it out on the brakes.
I think Mark's bigger problem here is the Costa. It's Ayogura on the trackhouse 20 who's still doing 140-60. Obscura.
Yeah, that's lovely. On the inside of Mark. Just squeezing that to the paintwork.
13th place on the grid.
And a fully, absolutely powering past Pedro Costa's cage, and they both go sideways. They're both snaking left and right, trying to squeeze every bit of braking performance. Ayogura just closed the door there on Costa.
Bagnaia with excited to check his flight, might lose his grip on the podium again.
But here comes Ayogura. What a battle for the final place on the podium. Bagnaia speeds through the inside line. Marco Bezzecchi improves. That dreams do come true. He takes a fairy tale home success here in Mugello. Edit to Pecco Bagnaia. That has to be the best day of Marco Bezzecchi's life. Aprilia's first win at this circuit. A 1-2 to Aprilia team. Simply the best, simply the best day of his career. Dreams do come true. A lifelong dream as a schoolboy. He would have watched his Italian heroes for so many years win here in Mugello. Grazie Mugello, grazie Italia. Brilliant job that by Alex.
Alex Marquez held up and stood up to the pressure, and he does take his first sprint win of the season.
We are another classic and iconic Spanish Grand Prix venue for round 6 in 2026. It's Pedro ready to power away from pole position here. What can Alex Marquez do? We've got problems here. That finger, it's the number 33 who's rolled off the line. I'm running race in MotoGP here. Absolutely, it's a great start for Bob this month's game by Pedro Acosta. Martin, another dynamic start from Martin.
He's now attacking Alex Marquez. Contact between the two Spaniards.
Oh, Zarco into the loss of there between Jorge out.
Frankie Morgan, didn't he? Marco on the inside, and he sends that Marco down from Marco.
It's a question it remains. What time to ride on board with Alex.
Martin's pretty attacking rather than defending. He takes Zarco then for that third place.
As Alex goes through on Joe and Zarco. Long way back. There's Raul Fernandez. Black House of Puglia lead once again.
We saw that move also for Marquez. He passed Martin.
Acosta in the slipstream. Acosta is back at the front. Marquez up into second place. Oh, dear me. Marquez had no room whatsoever to take any kind of avoiding or evasive action. Drama here then. So this MotoGP race here in Barcelona has been red flag. All riders involved in this are conscious. Alex is okay. Costa ground control, Fernandez second on the grid. Here we go then, take two in Catalunya. Martin, who makes another stunning start on his factory of four. It's not this going to wait well.
Second place to Marini Bagnon.
Another red flag. Taking a Bagnon, making his way back to Paris.
Very hopeful George Zarco is A-OK.
Attempt to complete this Grand Prix. Lights up a race then here in Montmello's Rotor start by Fabio Di Gianantonio. Acosta and Martin are going to go toe-to-toe and took out the race into the first corner once again. Fernandez there in third place.
What a Aprilia takes out another.
So Jorge Martin, after a double win in Le Mans last weekend, now has a double DNF. Gianantonio comes a long, long way back on the inside of Pecco Bagnaia. Featured enough into P3.
Gianantonio, if he wants to make his move, he needs to make it soon. Here comes that move, up in the second place, past Mir. He's just going to park it on the inside of Pedro Acosta and force it to give the lead up. Acosta's not going to give this up without an almighty fight.
On the pot, back goes Acosta. Gianantonio's going to have the inside line now going through turn 12. Acosta's not on the podium, he's not careful. He's got no grip. A sitting glove, a passenger, Aldeguer, dives on the inside of Acosta.
Since the cost of it.
Acosta goes down. There's Fabio Antonio wins the shortened Catalan Grand Prix. Throughout this afternoon in the top class, and Valentino Rossi congratulates his race winner Fabio Antonio. What a shortened Catalan Grand Prix that was. Lights out the racing now in the sprint of the month. 14 laps with show-stopping start. Unbelievable. Perfect start from Jorge Martin. Martin from 8th to 1st. Marquez has dumped it again.
Such an afternoon nightmare for the reigning world champion.
Constant and I had three crashes, and for that reason also this weekend I was extra careful to try to survive, but yeah, you know, the body is not following what I want, and I need to take a rest.
The sprint here is going to finish in phenomenal fashion for Jorge Martin as he takes the checkered flag first. It is a record 18 sprint success for the Martinator. What a ride, what a performance. What lies in store though now ahead of the 2026 edition of the Michelin Grand Prix of France. A full dry 4.19km Bugatti circuit. Mike Marquez on the front row, wishing a speedy recovery after his big sprint crash yesterday. 27 laps coming your way. It's a great start for proposition by Pecco Bagnaia and goes to the Ginko with a front wheel comes down the smoke though from Bagnaia. Great start by Marco Bezzecchi. Second it is that leads. Acosta's up in the second place and Quartararo third. Well on Acosta into turn 6.
Comes out of Dorna, attacking on the inside of John Zarko. Towards Antonio. He's running thick again as Bagnaia takes in. Someone's getting in the first string now. It's Marquez. It's Marquez. Crashed twice here in the Grand Prix last year, and he looks like he's going to do it taking down a Dorna.
Acosta goes on the inside of the Frenchman into the blue S. Is lovely moved out by Pedro Acosta. On the inside of Quartararo on that long run through the first corner. On the inside, Jordan Acosta into turn 3. Martin sends on the inside picture into turn 7. Let's go down. Sunday disasters continue. What a weekend to forget it has been for the factory, the Ducati team. Bagnaia dumps out of second place. Martin on the podium. Boy, Martin can win this French Grand Prix. Brilliant work, that tactically superb by Martin. He's second.
Here's Iagora on another fast close in a brilliant.
Mr. Iagora has been strong. How defensive will Acosta go? Can Acosta do anything? No, he can't. We're going to have an Aprilia 1, 2, 3 here in Le Mans.
And the battle is firmly on now between the two factory Aprilias.
Because the long way back, and Jorge Martin on the inside of Bezzecchi into turn 3.
phenomenal in France here this weekend after a brilliant sprint win from the third row. Jorge Martin wins the French Grand Prix here in Le Mans for the second time in 3 seasons. He completes a dream double, winning the sprint, winning the Grand Prix. What a victory! What a statement for Aprilia, and what a day, what a weekend for the Wiley factory. Aprilia, for the first time in their history, have a 1-2-3. Good morning, welcome to Spain, welcome to Jerez. It's lights out of the racing in the sprint here. Bike is ready for rain conditions. Top bracket's gone down. The reigning world champion on the deck. Alex Marquez ahead of him had a massive moment on the front. Marquez has crashed in this sprint here from pole position. Marquez and catches out of the lead. Here comes Vidya into pit lane. Simon Aldegar is leading this sprint. Oh, now second, the World Championship, he's gone down. This now is a sprint of survival. Marc Marquez is going for the lead. Super aggressive. He pulls out the final corner to take victory in a truly sensational sprint here in Spain. MotoGP in Sachsenring. The greatest motorsport show on earth has arrived at one of its greatest and most iconic venues. It is the Grand Prix of Spain, round 4 in the 2026 MotoGP World Championship. This is Jerez. MotoGP here in the Spanish Grand Prix. What a start! Good start from the second row, 2 from Alex Marquez. Brilliant. Absolute record right, but Saki up in the second. Paul Martin's come from 10 to finish only getting 6 places on this first lap. What a start by the Martinator. Marquez goes on the inside of that second into the angle on the outside corner. Marquez is trying to get on with business here very rapidly. On the inside he goes to Dorna. Marquez has taken a huge tumble. It's over. Marc Marquez then now is down here for the second time in 2026. A massive dent in his early championship challenge. Second year in a row of a factory battle here in Jerez. Marc Marquez takes that early a podium contention. For Gian Antonio then now, perfect time to ride on board with the Italian. That is the textbook move on the brakes of Martin down the hill into the race corner. Into them now, up in the top 3. Oh, that's going to be close. That's going to be really close. Cost suffering big time here, isn't it? The captain's day is going from bad to worst. Paco Bagnaia looks like there's clearly some kind of technical issue that has come the way of the Italian.
into the stadium he comes. He knows that a second consecutive Spanish Grand Prix victory is his.
What a weekend it's been for Alex Marquez as he wins in style the Spanish Grand Prix for his second year in succession. Marquez then takes the win by just under 2 seconds from Marco Bezzecchi. Antonio does complete the podium. Alex Marquez has done another number on the field here. He is your Grand Prix winner in Spain. Lights and lights it's printed the Apex attacks to the second balance in turn 11. Wow, contact there. Jorge Martin is in the top. He's a good sprint here. Absolutely should enough. He's made a great start, moved up in the second place. But then Antonio's done a long way from pole position, and Jorge Martin up on the P3. A real poor start this Grand Prix for Figure from pole to fifth.
Oh, that's wide.
Close with that. Marco Bezzecchi's put himself in the P1 here, and it is game on for this leading laps record. With the Gian Antonio, now that is payback, isn't it, from Digia on Marc Marquez.
Yeah, right the inside now, Marc Marquez.
There's a Marc Marquez in first feeling that to the long lap penalty lead. 7th when he came into the league. Just going to drop in here behind Rap Fernandez on the 25 track category. There was a bit of damage to the rear seam unit of Marco Bezzecchi. Bezzecchi now is really starting to stretch Acosta and stretch Martin. Oh!
Did you say
Jorge Martin, massive scare. Great girl, that is absolutely motoring right now, no matter 3.
straight up the inside of Pecco Bagnaia. Beautiful move from the 79.
Well, he's coming for a long way back here in the turn 12, and he's going to pick off Gian Antonio. He's got the inside line. He squeezes Digia out to the paintwork on the outside of Gura at the inside line, and now we have 3 of winners inside the top 4. That's made a mistake. Martin through. We'll go on course for back-to-back factory of 21-2s.
And Marc Marquez showing no brotherly love to Alex there, is he?
On the inside of the beast goes Mark.
Michael's got a problem. Come on! If you're a representative, it's Grand Prix.
That's too neat. Oh, how hard is he pushing? It might only be at the moment for 5th place, but he's still going all in, isn't it, Marc Marquez? That Mark, surely he's going to make that move. That was coming. That's been his favourite move in this Grand Prix. That's the 3rd time now. Oh, through there it goes, past Giannini. Who is going to stop at the pool yet? Crosses the line. The Bezzecchi blitz continues in MotoGP. It's another factory of Aprilia 1-2. Pedro Acosta does take 3rd place, the final spot on the podium.
Marco Bezzecchi.
Simply the Bears. Another Hollywood Buster.
In the sprint here, Antonio for lead from Marc Marquez. Coming across the wall, super aggressive. Marc Marquez now looking very similar to the P2. Marc Marquez wins in first.
MotoGP is back in Brazil for the first time in 22 years. 150,000 fans have come to enjoy the show.
MotoGP here in Goiânia, brilliant start, middle of that front row by Marco Bezzecchi. He's got the drop of Fabio Di Antonio. Marc Marquez there in third place. He completely lost that third, didn't he? But Marco Bezzecchi at the front once again. Antonio's gone wide, but Marc Marquez pouncing on another Di Antonio mistake. It's shaping for a move up the inside from Jorge Martin. Acosta up into fourth place. Dean Acosta. Antonio, who carves up the inside, and Jorge Martin says thank you very much.
Yeah, and we have now and a fully 1-2.
Unfortunately, he is now out of this Grand Prix. His miserable start for 2026 continues.
Oh, Jandir, it's another double DNF.
Smart Tennis taking Pedro Acosta into turn one.
Pedro Acosta on the inside of Alex Marquez. Whatever room was there, he decided to take it on what play, didn't he? Marquez does dish out some retaliation and wrestles back P5.
Higher going now into the pitch at the expense of Acosta.
Bezzecchi in cruise control.
Marc Marquez, the king of Motor, he's putting some manners on Fabio Di Antonio. This is a bit of a personal duel, isn't it? Back into third place.
Di Antonio, well, fair play to him. Fabio is fighting for fire here.
Jorge Martin makes a bit of a mistake into turn 11.
It has been an exhibition from Marco Bezzecchi.
That's me if you can the message. Marco Bezzecchi was utterly brilliant in Burram to start 2026 and his brilliant. He wins our first Brazilian Grand Prix in 22 years. He absolutely destroyed the field. Jorge Martin completes a fairy tale. 1-2 for the factory of Tilly squad. Di Antonio holds on for the podium.
Just to the top of the MotoGP World Championship.
Welcome one and all to the 2026 MotoGP World Championship.
It's lights out and we're racing in the sprint here in Burra. He's blown it here. Marquez comes from a long way, but super aggressive on the inside. Marquez has to draw one position. And Joe Acosta that it is that will take victory in our first 2026.
We are back. Its first chapter of 2026. We are set for the 2026 MotoGP World Championship.
Right
And we're racing in MotoGP here at the Chang International Circuit. Marco Bezzecchi's nailed that start from pole position here. He's going to get a double ahead of Marc Marquez on that Roman Jimmy first corner as Martin tries to attack Fernandez.
Carved from Marc Marquez to the right-hander, Raul Fernandez straight through into second. But Costa certainly attacking. From first to fifth, Gian Antonio for fifth.
Marc Marquez still stuck in those 131s. Jorge Martin on the inside of Marc Marquez. That's brilliant. Into turn 3. This is vintage Jorge Martin.
37 versus 93 for the second day in a row, and Pedro Costa gets the better of Marc Marquez, who's now down into 5th position. Costa attacks again on the inside into turn 3. He's just going to try and hang Martin out to dry. Now Marc Marquez is getting involved.
Oh, look at this now as they power through the gearbox. Marc Marquez went into turn 3, 5th. He's now in P3. Costa goes earlier. He's only waiting for turn 12. Immediately, he attacks Marc going through 8th.
Bezzecchi leads from Raul Fernandez and Pedro Costa.
Oh, what's happening here? That's like Devin run wide going into turn 4. He's got a problem. He's got a puncture.
The rim is damaged.
Wow, Marc Marquez then. What on earth? That is a catastrophic failure there.
Marc Marquez is out. Marquez is down at turn 4.
This tight Grand Prix in some of the most demanding conditions of the entire season.
Oh, now it's slowing down.
Unbelievable. Here comes Acosta, but he's coming from a long, long way back on Raul Fernandez. Yeah, Raul Fernandez is really suffering. Marco Bezzecchi sees that quite brilliantly in Burra. He does create history. Marco Bezzecchi, the first Aprilia rider in MotoGP to win 3 successive Grand Prix. Pedro Acosta caps off a stunning first Grand Prix of the season for the Spaniard in KTM. But Fernandez does nurse himself back to the checkered flag in 3rd place.
Pedro Acosta leads the MotoGP World Championship for the first time in his career. The Sharks.
We have been welcomed back with open arms to our season finale round in 2025. What a pleasure it is to be back here at the Ricardo Tormo circuit. Over 200,000 fans in Valencia. It's lights out, we're racing in our final sprint of 2025 here. Alex Marquez has got the top briefly as he Marco Bezzecchi possibly super aggressive. Through the final corner we go then. Alex Marquez finishes on top of the sprint podium here in Valencia. Who will be the Grand Prix winner in the final showdown? Who is going to take the spoils?
What's going to happen? What's happened here? Morbidelli dropped it before he's even got to his grid position. He's due to start from 7th. They might have to delay the start for this if they can't get him off the grid.
Lights out, and we are racing this final showdown here in Valencia. It's another brilliant start from pole position by the Aprilia of Marco Bezzecchi. Antonio drops across the nose of Pedro Acosta, so Vigia had on a good start there.
Who Miller is launching it at the inside there of Juan Mir as we see what's there. That's Bagnaia and Zarco, and that really does cap off Pecco Bagnaia's miserable 2025.
Poor old Pecco Bagnaia.
Juan Zarco has a long lap penalty. Raul Fernandez has passed Fabio Di Giannantonio on this lap, up into third place.
Well, then now with Acosta. He's going to seize that inside line on the Giannantonio. Acosta now picks him off to fourth. This has been coming in. Raul Fernandez now up into second. The problem is, has he let that second get too far up the road in terms of the victory?
Martin slowing down with Jorge Martin, retires from the Grand Prix, receives a round of applause from his team. Much more to come from Jorge Martin in 2026.
Acosta.
Clearly, he is a lot faster than the 73.
Blue on the inside of Alex Marquez. There's more time coming away here for Alex.
Digits stuck up behind Alex Marquez. And he comes through on Alex Marquez, who has to check up to avoid running into Fabio Di Giannantonio. That move was also coming, but Gigi now takes four.
Bezzecchi just faultless and flawless at the front of this Grand Prix. Here comes Di Giannantonio, here comes the move, into turn 4 we go. Acosta tries to lean on the Italian, no way back through into turn 5. Di Giannantonio there trying to keep a Ducati on the podium for the 88th Grand Prix in a row. Bez wins the final Grand Prix of the season. Raul Fernandez completes a brilliant 1-2.
Fabio Di Giannantonio celebrates third place.
2025 then has ended. Nine record crowds in 3.5 million fans. A title fight between two brothers for the first time ever in Grand Prix history. 6 winners in a row. Returns to Hungary and to Czechia. The greatest comeback of all, completed by Marc Marquez. That's been the story of the 2025 MotoGP World Championship.
We thank you for your company. See you in 2026.
Marquez once again, what a showstopper that was. And the best advert you'll see from MotoGP. A whirlwind, a classic sprint here in Portimao. Absolutely sensational. Race for the 21st time in the Grand Prix of Portugal. A very emotional day for Miguel Oliveira. The Portuguese fans say a special farewell to their home hero. Marco Bezzecchi from pole position. Race action underway in MotoGP. It's lights out, we're racing in MotoGP here in the Grand Prix of Portugal. Pedro Acosta on the KTM has made a lightning start. Bezzecchi, as he did yesterday in the sprint leads, with another fast start back then by Alex Marquez, who gained 2 spots from 5th to 3rd. Oh, there's contact. Oh, Morbidelli now because the Morbidelli got it all up the shape on the brakes going into turn 5. So Frankie down out at 5 on that mark. Alex Marquez goes side by side and it's tricky. Downhill braking zone with a cross. It's a lovely, lovely move. Bagnaia sends it on the inside of Quartararo. Acosta, this moment as he squeezed the brake going down into turn 5. Even now from the column, unfortunately for Mia.
He hasn't come across the line either.
Bindo's got the same way as Pedro Acosta by snapping the sideways down the hill. Bindo still in 6th place. Bindo's going to go a long, long way back. He's going to have that inside line. It was a force move, it was an aggressive move, but Bindo resisting out again. But how much longer? Because down to 5 we go. Oh, that's more combat. I think some of them some that was a lovely move on the inside of Quartararo. Bagnaia, well that's huge. Can you believe this? That is now a 4th consecutive Sunday DNF. Quartararo is still resisting this relentless attack from Binder behind him. True on the inside goes back Binder.
That way, says Lucio Cicchinello. Push, Johan. Push, because we wanted to try and keep that 7th place.
There's a Bureau finally get through on Johan Zarco.
Nietzsche is going to just force this one to fit up the inside of Johan Zarco.
This has been a demolition job here so far. A masterclass from Marco. Absolutely brilliant second. What a performance. Marco Mazzocchi wins the Grand Prix of Portugal in 2025. He won it from start to finish. Pedro Acosta on the podium for the 3rd time. Marquez then does indeed hold on to 2nd place. A standing ovation for Miguel Oliveira. Blasts the sprint here in Japan as Alex Marquez crosses the line, and we do have history. It's a Mark and Alex 1-2 in the MotoGP World Championship. Alex Marquez, the runner-up, firmly out of the gap, the rookie of the year in 2025. The Grand Prix of Malaysia is MotoGP's final flyway race in 2025. They come to this spectacular Sepang International Circuit. Bagnaia once again from pole position. Fermin Almaguer was 3rd over the line with a tyre pressure penalty placement. Promoted Pedro Acosta inside the top 3. Alex Marquez goes from 2nd on the grid. Last control on the line. Sattler racing in MotoGP here then in Malaysia once again. He nailed the start of pole position as the 63 bike of Bagnaia. Look at Pedro Acosta once again capitalising on that missile. He gets the drop and Alex Marquez will run down into the 1st corner. Quartararo going down the hill into the turn 2.
Marquez, if he wants to go after Pecco Bagnaia, he needs to pass Acosta quickly.
Alex getting very aggressive early on here. Marquez goes up the inside. Bagnaia, well, he was aggressive. It's Alex Marquez that leads.
Acosta buzzing all over the rear tyre of Bagnaia's Ducati. He's not got the support he wants at the moment from that medium front.
Versus Luke, they go side by side. This is the battle for 5th. Nearly goes around the outside. They almost take each other out.
Once again, Bagnaia is pricing a rearguard action against the KTM of Acosta.
Spinning Bagnaia, loud singing himself hoarse in the main grandstand here. That's a lovely move to get them a little bit hot. Bagnaia will try and sweep around the outside. Here attacking Quartararo. That is watching the front, sliding the rear.
Here this time we're going to get the move done. Once again, he's sideways on the inside of Quartararo. His own moment. The 2020 World Champion is now up into 4th place. Ralph Fernandez has also gone down. There will be no back-to-back victories for the Trackhouse rider.
Well, he was. Thank you more than the aggression. Alex Marquez is riding absolutely beautifully at the front of this Grand Prix.
Van is going slowly. He is losing his grip.
To the inside line now through 11 and across, and then finally has retaliated on Bagnaia. Fair play, Fermin. That was almost a disaster. Aldeguer crashes out. Well, this has been coming. He's had some big scares, hasn't he, on the front end of that Ducati.
Oh,
Bagnaia's gone in really hot. There's a turn 40. Yeah, there's something happening to Bagnaia. He looks back to his left-hand side. So Pecco Bagnaia's Malaysian Grand Prix is over. Sastas Mia onto the podium place.
Marquez can't be caught.
The final corner goes. And Alex Marquez has sprinkled some magic on the Malaysian Grand Prix.
Second place goes to Pedro Acosta. Third place then falls 1 year. Puccini are now the top independent team of 2025.
Good morning and welcome back to Australia. Welcome back to Phillip Island. It's been a Bezzecchi blitz here though in Phillip Island. Despite the mid-sprint mistake, he wins for the third sprint in the last 4 Grand Prix in dominant fashion. Ralph Fernandez, who does make it back-to-back sprint Saturday podiums for Trackhouse. Marco Bezzecchi, 3.1 seconds clear of Fernandez, who will serve a double long lap. It's lights out and we're racing in MotoGP here. It's a superb shot from second place for the grid by sprint with Marco Bezzecchi. Got the wrong right yesterday, he's going the wrong way. Acosta keeping at lightning speed, the KTM on the run down into the third corner. Acosta immediately up into third place, but it's Bez that leads it up. Clear 1-2 once again.
Of course, that is super low, but he has at least limited the damage somewhat, and this is perfect for Marco Bezzecchi. That's exactly what he would have wanted to achieve on this first lap. Hit out front, pull an advantage in, so the long lap's not going to cost you as much.
Costa brilliant, he's got the inside line there, using every single pony underneath him there. First of all, Fernando behind him.
So coming straight to the branch, and that will be a fast-on crash at Doolan corner. Yes, surely now he's going to go straight on into the long lap penalty. Fernandez then takes the lead of the Australian Grand Prix. Acosta will also go through to second place.
Jack Bell has crashed out of podium contention here.
Here he comes into long lap penalty. Bezzecchi then rejoins behind Ditcher in 6th place.
It's easy to like, isn't it, for Alex Marquez? No competition in terms of top speed there between Alex and Quartararo. Ditcher up pretty mobile in this Australian Grand Prix now in P4. Gian Antonio like one corner away from the podium here in Phillip Island. Certainly is on the inside of the course. He goes. Acosta pushed off the podium now back into P4.
Look at the 37 just pulling up alongside him.
We're just running a little bit hot, and that's allowed for Gian Antonio to come back through. He's taking second. I was going to say taking second on this lap. He takes it immediately.
With 4 laps to go, he was salvaging some pride from this Grand Prix, but he crashes with 4 laps to go.
He's coming down the hill into turn 10. There's nothing that Alex can do about that. This has been some salvage mission by Bez.
Few better places than Phillip Island to take any MotoGP victory. But the first MotoGP victory, always the most special, and Ralph Fernandez can reach out and touch it.
First time winner in MotoGP, and it is the phenomenal Ralph Fernandez in Phillip Island who wins the Australian Grand Prix. Antonio fights his way through from 10th up into second place. Marco Bezzecchi, after a 2-1 lap, does indeed rescue a podium. Marco Bezzecchi has delivered an incredible comeback here in Mandalika to take the sprint victory. Wow, what a sprint! Probably the best sprint we've seen of the season so far, and Aldeguer so near yet so far. Here in Mandalika, on the way we go, the Marco Bezzecchi's again shaking. This on another shocking straight goes backwards once again. It's Pedro Acosta leads from Luca Marini in second. Marquez and Marco Bezzecchi. That's a massive early on here. Bezzecchi and Marc Marquez out of contention. And now Trump here has crashed out of contention as well through contact at turn 10. Aldeguer goes on the inside of Marini. Aldeguer now up into second place. Starts in pursuit over Acosta. Here is Aldeguer taking the lead at this Grand Prix for the first time. He's got the job done up at turn 10. Acosta now, what have we got in terms of retaliation on the factory KTM? Bagnaia down and well and truly out. Last and lost. Here comes Marini, darting to the inside line there. Acosta immediately tries to fight this battle raging at the moment between Acosta and Marini.
It's going to come back again shortly at the inside of Marini. Has to try and jump out of the way. Marini knows it's faster here, but Acosta just not letting it go.
You could just see it off there.
Al Fernandez, if Marini's not going to go on the attack, then Al Fernandez is more than happy to.
Yeah, he was part in the middle of that turn 16. He's got the inside. Oh! Marini, that's allowed the ball wide open. That's Alex Rins to move up into the podium places. Alex Marquez now picks up Rafa. Marini almost lost the point, didn't he? Going into the braking zone for the first corner. Here's Alex Rins. It's getting better. 3-3 on Acosta, 8-12, we know how good Acosta's been on that left-hander through the 13. Alex Marquez, he's on the inside of Acosta. Acosta desperately trying to fight back. Alex Marquez able to find a way to win rings into second place. But Acosta then goes back on the inside of the ring, but I think the rings have just completely barbecued that software entire.
Pedro Acosta is just not letting him rest on this. He's going to find the inside. Of course he is. Acosta's not going to give this second place up.
A nod of the head, a nod of approval from Aldeguer as he comes up to the final corner. It has been a question. The moment of something Aldeguer here in the Grand Prix of Indonesia. What a performance! What a dominant victory by the rookie. Further back, the shoot's got to go to Pedro Acosta. Alex Marquez is on the podium despite the late charge from Binder and Marini. Second youngest ever MotoGP winner at the age of 20 years and 183 days is confirming Aldeguer. The racing here in Japan in the spring. Oh, shot back. I think the trip is now. Marco Bezzecchi has gone down. His fourth big injury though of the season. Jorge Martin suffered a fractured right collarbone after big contact with his teammate Marco Bezzecchi. Bagnaia is back. Pole position and sprint victory double. Marco Bagnaia back in business. Today is the big one, the moment of truth. has arrived for the 93 here in Japan.
Up back has been loaded.
Marc Marquez, just 24 laps away from being in seventh heaven. The green flag clears at the back. Right out, and we're racing with potential to the side here. It's a great start for pole position by Pecco Bagnaia. Mia has a mistake on the factory on the base in the turn one. Marc Marquez up into P3. Acosta's been rapid away from the second pole of the grid. He's up in second.
Quartararo past the 36.2, so the Vecchietta start is up into 4.
Bagnaia has had the dream start, hasn't he?
Here now attacking on Quartararo. Here goes through into 4th place.
Ferraro. He left the ball open, I think, with Quartararo going into turn 5. Well, that mistake at turn 5 from Quartararo has seen him drop from 4 to 8.
Quartararo has gone wide. Ralph Fernandez is piling on the pain for the 2021 World Champion. Coming through.
Launches it. Bezzecchi then finally has got through.
Mia, he's still in this run for the podium.
Acosta really struggling. Marc hasn't made the move up into P2. Acosta looks like he's really struggling at the moment with grip on those Michelin tyres. What a weekend for Mia. Going for it into 7 he goes. Joan Mir then does fight his way through. That brings you 3rd place. Oh, what's going on with Bagnaia? Bagnaia's got smoke. She's got wrenching moments inside that factory at the Ducati garage. Now Bezzecchi goes on the inside of Acosta.
He's Acosta sails way up the race. Just could not slow that KTM down. He's lost much more now than 6th place.
Well, that's true. That's the biggest
pull we've seen so
we have seen. Are we going to get a dramatic late plot twist here in Motegi?
So clearly at this stage, it's only smoke, not fluids, coming out of the Ducati. If that changes, then Pecco Bagnaia might get pulled off the road.
No dramas at the moment for Bagnaia. Reboard at the Ducati. Resilience matched by pure brilliance. Pecco Bagnaia will win the Japanese Grand Prix, but from career saving surgery in Minnesota back to the top double-headed motorland. The crowning glory here in Motegi is the comeback atop all combats. Marc Marquez is the 2025 MotoGP World Champion. Hyundai Sporting Titans has been hailed for producing amazing comebacks. Now Marc Marquez surely has to be mentioned in the same breath and clinches his 7th MotoGP World Championship. The comeback king has taken the throne once again.
Was difficult, was super difficult. But now I'm in pace of myself.
It's his first big Saturday slipper of the season. The Ducati's the golden roller sprint is over. Second comes in, sensational Saturday. Welcome one and all to Grand Prix of San Marino. All eyes on pole position.
It is now set for action here at Misano.
And we're racing with MotoGP in Misano. Right start from pole position of Marco Bezzecchi. That's made the perfect start That's far close right towards the rear at Bezzecchi. Costa getting on the inside of the Gil Antonio. Up now into 6th. Margot, I thought he was going to try and line up the move on Bezzecchi. Costa now up into 5th.
The third pressing point is coming up in 30.
Quartararo tries desperately to tough it out in the braking zone. The Costa now up into 4th.
Costa still thinking about a podium. That's broken down.
An embarrassing weekend with the factory KTM team.
James, that fingers problem on Friday has been repeated.
Actually shocker for KTM.
As that's Pecco Bagnaia on the floor. The home Grand Prix to forget for Pecco.
For 2025 to forget for Bagnaia. Up to Bezzecchi, he's on the big pressure though right now, isn't it, from Mark? So Marquez made a mistake. Mark Marquez made that move on Bez to take the lead here. A Mizana. More misery for Bagnaia. Back to the Bezzecchi. Absolutely phenomenal. The 1:21.357 from Bez. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Mark just cannot shake him off.
Marquez responds with one of his own.
It has been another Mizano masterclass from Mark. He takes the checker flag just over half the second clear of Bezzecchi. It's a very lonely and distant third place for Alex.
On that riding, he gets a match point. And the Japanese Grand Prix continue.
Absolutely big.
An hour or so from picturesque Dresden and buried deep in the forests of eastern Germany, MotoGP takes on the Sachsenring for round 11 of the season. The halfway point upon us, the most exciting sport on earth is set to deliver the goods once again. Welcome to practice on Friday. Good afternoon and welcome back live and trackside as we continue our coverage on day one of the 2026 Liquid Grand Prix of Germany here at the Sachsenring. We've been coming here since 1998, but the Sachsenring in a German GP itself can trace its roots back to 1927 when it was held on public roads in the surrounding areas. The permanent circuit built for 1998 has seen us call the Sachsenring home ever since. Moto3 Practice coming up first this afternoon, and some news to break is that David Almanza will also sit out this session with illness. He had a fever this morning and it's been decided that the best thing that can happen is that he's reviewed tomorrow ahead of FP2, which should he take to the track at all this weekend, he will find himself in Q1 automatically and with a mountain to climb. Kiko Giles and Elliot York here taking you through this one as always. Bad news with the number 22L. It's got to be said, he was in some good form, just moved up into third in the championship. Let's hope he's okay to get back on track tomorrow and make a fist of things on Sunday. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, mate, and hello to everyone tuning in for this afternoon's practice session. Yes, excited for this. Unfortunately, won't be featuring David Almanza. A real shame, he's not had his fair share of luck so far this season with injuries and illness. Of course, qualified on pole position over at Mugello, then missed the Sunday Grand Prix through illness. Suffered that patch over in Brazil as well, and now a heavy bout of flu, unfortunately. It takes a lot to keep these riders off track, so it must be a pretty bad illness for David Almanza. Of course, the team's home Grand Prix this weekend, and with David Munoz still sidelined for injury, it was David Almanza who was going to be their lead rider this weekend, and a real chance of victory as well, given recent form and the form all season long when Almanza has been on track. So yeah, sending David a get well soon. Fingers crossed we'll see him out on track tomorrow morning for FP2. It would be a crucial 30 minutes for Almanza to get up to speed in the weekend before qualifying 1 and potentially qualifying 2 later on tomorrow. But that is to come. Unfortunately, Almanza won't be on track for practice this afternoon, which is a shame because he would have been one of the riders you do expect fighting right at the sharp end, as this rider was this morning. Alvaro Carpe topping the timesheets earlier on in FP1.
Very strongly indeed, wasn't he? Ahead of Alan Cipriani by just under 0.2 of a second. Guido Pini with Top Honda in third. Just if I can, just to carry on with that Almanza thing for a moment, that means we'll reduce at least in this session down to 24 because Zen Matani, you'll be aware, Zen Matani had a crash in Assen and has badly done his hand and his wrist. He's been waiting for surgery for a little longer than he anticipated. Finally got that done earlier on in this week, but that means he's not here for Sachsenring. Silverstone is the task for him, and he's not been replaced, whereas David Almanza was meant to be out there, of course, and isn't at the moment. Some other bits of housekeeping: Eduardo Gutierrez is in for Rouche Nugri, as well as Mark Suriarte still deputising for David Munoz. So there is, at the moment, no Team Davo.
No Team Dave, as you like to call them, and I like to hear you call them as well. Yeah, unfortunately for, as I say, the home team this weekend, the Liquid Money Dynabot Intact GP team, currently none of their full-time riders on track, sending everyone who is in here a get well soon. Zen Matani, Rouche Mugli, and of course David Munoz as well. If you weren't with us this morning, you've probably seen online that he's undergone another operation, 11 in the last few months now from Munoz. Ridiculously bad luck for Munoz, who of course we were fully expecting to mount a title charge this season. A speedy recovery for Munoz, for everyone who was in here, of course, for Matani and Mugli as well, but especially for Munoz, who going under the knife once or twice is bad enough. To do that 11 times must take a hell of a lot out of you, and just hope for Munoz is in a decent headspace and just returns to the track when he's ready, and yeah, fingers crossed it's a smooth sailing.
We know that David Munoz has got plenty of fight in him, so I'm sure that he will be confident a bit to get back out on track. Speaking of which, we are back out on track. 35 minutes Moto3 Practice action is underway. What you saw this morning has zero bearing on what you're about to see now, but this does have a bearing on qualifying. The top 14 riders in this one will move directly through into Q2. Everyone else will be forced to go into the jungle of Q1, where the top 4 will be seeded into joining the already seeded Q14 today. Q1 and Q2 obviously getting a qualifying program underway tomorrow at 12:45 local time, and John, myself and we'll suddenly up here in comms for that one, and we'll be controlling pit lane here. It's the longest straight, so there's only 700 feet to go on. It is the fun straight, so you'll be alright.
Bit hilly, but the weather is also a little bit kinder than it was over for the Dutch Grand Prix as well here in Germany. Look how many tents and caravans and whatnot are in the background there. Such a well-supported Grand Prix, well over 100,000 tickets sold. Won't be that many today, of course, on a Friday, but coming into Saturday and Sunday, really excited to see this place at full capacity. It's one of the ones I would recommend people coming to if you ever get the chance to read the water. Actually, yours was fancy Grand Prix in this part of the world when the Sachsenring. You can't really go too much on this place.
Just about to say exactly the same. It's the one where you always say if you want to do MotoGP properly, you don't even have to camp. You can stay with the sports camps all around here. Even little bits isn't too far away. Where we were playing football last night, Al, there's some great places, some great undiscovered gems in this part of Germany. You're not that far away from 10 minutes. We spoke about 10 minutes this morning. Dresden is gorgeous, an hour away, or just over an hour away from here, so plenty of flights in there. It's one of those ones where really do get rewarded for a sense of exploration. Similar to Brno as well, that's another. Austria's a belter, Jerez, another one, Le Mans as well. And we don't need to know on about Mugello. We know how special Mugello is, but there's a real good cluster of European rounds that are perhaps slightly more underrated than their big heavyweights. And like I say, Mugello, Assen is another, as well as Barcelona. There's some real good ones that you can get stuck into. Oh, dearie me, talking of getting stuck in, that is a Max Quiles fall, and that is a big one at turn 7. Max Quiles has taken a bit of a battering here. The stretcher has come out. Turn 7 is the downhill left-hander. It's not quite the bottom of the hill, I don't believe. It's this one here. Oh! What has happened there? He's been run over by his bike as he's fallen off. He must have had a massive rear-end moment and almost saved it. But Max Quiles, your championship leader by 90 points, has brought out the yellow flags here at turn 7, 3 minutes into the session, and Max Quiles, the last time we saw him was yet to really get properly on his feet. Nico Tirol in the box watches on, as do we up here in Coventry, but that was a big one for Max Kilos. That's the biggest one of his season so far.
Yeah, turn 7 is where this Sachsenring circuit really opens up pretty much full shaft through the left-hander of 7. And a big one for Kiles drama then here. Early doors in practice, and that motorcycle took a bit of a battering as well. The main thing is, of course, is for Kiles. Hopefully, he's going to be all okay, because there's not many places on the Sachsenring circuit, anywhere on the calendar, you don't want to crash anywhere. But 7, 8 through 9, 10 and 11, down into 12 as well. Fast places here at the Sachsenring, especially turn 7. The yellow flags are clear, which is good news, which means Kiles and the bike are at least on the service road part, which is good. Fingers crossed that Kiles is all okay, because that was a quick one.
Two things to touch on here, Al. The first one is in Moto3 and Moto2, one bike only. That bike took an absolute flyer, so the Aspar team now are going to be rounding up the mechanics probably on both sides of the box if they can afford to, and getting that bike fixed as well as possible and as quickly as possible should Max Kilos be able to get back out onto the track. The second thing is where he's crashed. He's crashed on the outer loop. So the Sachsenring, if you look at it on a map, we're right in the middle of the track here. The start-finish date hasn't changed at all in 100 years of this place being here, but the permanent circuit looped back round and we are right in the middle. And Max Kilos probably crashed at a point where he could be much further away from pit lane. So we've got to wait a little bit so we can get the bike back. So there's a couple of things there to keep an eye on. When that Max Kilos number 28 CF Moto Gaviota Aspar machine comes back rolling through pit lane, and when the rider comes back, and also what state it's in and how quick they can get it fixed.
Yeah, fast corner, turn 7. Remember in 2023, Marc Marquez crashed there in warm-up. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back for Marc Marquez and Honda. I think it was his 5th or 6th crash of the weekend back here in 2023. And of course, Marc Marquez worked very, very closely with Max Kiles as well. Fingers crossed Kiles is all okay, but back on with the action drama though for the championship leader, early doors in practice.
I can remember another one there, in 2009. I think it was Nicky Hayden and Nicola Panica. I can't remember which way round it was. It may have been Nicky Hayden who high-sided and handed himself to Nicola Panica, who was on the outside. That was in MotoGP qualifying. That was in the rain as well. So turn 7, we have seen those big high sides before, but very, very rarely in Moto3 because they're going pretty steady round there, as in fast, but there's not too much lean over.
Pretty sure this is where Matteo Batelli at turn 7 a couple of years ago did his as well. A high side out of there in the race as well. So yeah, turn 7 has caught out the best, and the very best in Moto3 as things stand is of course Max Kilos, 90 points clear of Alvaro Carpe in the championship. Quite morning this morning for Kilos, P11, and absolutely not the way he would have wanted to start his afternoon session here at the Sachsenring. So hopefully for Kilos and the team's sake, we can get back out for the final 28 minutes at some point to get a couple of laps on the board, no matter how many it is, get back out there, try and iron out any of the issues before you go into Saturday morning, because as things stands, this session is crucial for Kilos as well, but Saturday morning in F2 could be absolutely crucial to get some laps on the board.
25.9 is the fastest lap this morning. We're down to a 26.1 already. The opening 7 minutes of this one thus far, and that has been set by Ryan Riata on a 26.110, just 300th of a second ahead of Bob Kelso, and then Jesus Rios, who, worth noting, Jesus Rios and Max Kilos had a little bit of a, I wouldn't say coming together, but on-track escapade earlier. Rios was coming through the final corner and indicated, was slow on the racing line and indicated to in the pit lane. That wasn't deemed enough by the stewards. He's not been given a heavy penalty. It was a official warning, so do it again and your final so probably would allow.
Yeah, just wasn't quite aware of the surroundings of Rios coming towards the end of the session. Maybe just thought everyone had crossed the line, took the checkered flag, but Kiles was on a quick lap behind him, and you've got to be a little bit more aware. So yeah, right for the stewards to give Rios a bit of a warning, a bit of a slap on the hand, and say if you do that again, you're going to be heading for a penalty, which is obvious. Rios will know that. A little bit of a mistake. These things can happen. Not the first nor the last time we'll go to see that.
It does sound Miller at the moment coming across the line in 7th place. He was 8th and 5th in the Red Bull rookie places here at the Sachsenring, so he's got good pedigree around here, Sal Mellon. He's in a good vein of form as well. It's fair to say that the 11th place that the official classification is going to give him from Aston is probably not representative of where we expect him to be, because he was across the line in fifth. He had a double long lap penalty equivalent added onto his time at the end of the race, because the long lap penalty lane in Aston was not active for the Moto3 Grand Prix, but Rico Sal Mellon is finding his feet now in Moto3.
Yeah, certainly is. I'll be Rico's shoes. I'll be taking that P5 and taking the result sheets before it added the 6-second penalty. It was unfortunate, really, that the long lap penalty over in Aston on the Sunday morning for Moto3 was wet. Another crash then down at turn 7. This is not going to be a slow one, as we saw for Maximo Piles.
Remember, was it last year at Senna Aegis in Moto2, that massive save coming through there? So you can maybe save it and run it out towards the barrier, but judging by where that yellow...
I think green power machine protection.
Yeah, I think that is either Crusoe or Ogden, and confirmation on our screen it is Adrian Crusoe, along with Guido Cooney as well. Wow, that's quite big, and we can see the number 94 walking away, and the pipe as well, and also Crusoe's running. Here we go. Oh, dearie me, this is going to be scary. And it's a high side for Pini, which leaves Crusoe with nowhere to go. And that is a big old fall at turn 7 in the opening stage. Just like I was saying earlier on with the incident with Canepa and Hayden, you crash there together, and there's not a lot of room, there's not a lot you can even do, but great to see both riders at least up on their feet.
Yeah, exactly that. Crusoe's just taking a little bit longer to get back up on his feet, but just saw him there on the service road trying to sort the bike out. And again, Crusoe's in the wrong place at the wrong time. Of course, he was involved in that Parpay incident when Parpay crashed over at turn 5 and Aston just in front of him, left Crusoe with absolutely nowhere to go. And there again, can't do anything about Pini having a bit of a high side. In terms of the rear end coming round on him, it wasn't a bigger for Pini, but a very quick part of the circuit as well. So Pini crashing right in front of Crusoe's nowhere to go. Thankfully, they're both back up on their feet. But that's 3 riders down then at turn 7 in the opening 10 minutes.
Yeah, and as we said about Kilos, those riders, they looked okay and they're going to get back, but they've got to get their bikes back down. If the marshals are already picking there, they're going to have to wait a little while until someone else can come and get them. In terms of the vehicle recovery, that is what I'm talking about. This is the new David Almanza, who will take no further part in Friday's session due to fever. We already covered that off right at the top of the show. The rider who is third in this championship at the moment, missing all of Friday action here at the Sachsenring. So get well soon, David, and also to the other David in that team, David Munoz, if you're listening. But Jürgen Ling is going to be looking through the rider replacement list for this week, because he's already got Marcus Uriarte on one of the bikes. Marcus Uriarte going really well at the moment, up in 4th place. He won't win another one. Thankfully, we've got a summer break to come, so if it is an illness for our Almanza that takes me out the weekend, surely he'll be okay for Silverstone.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? The top 2 from last time out over in Aston, currently not on circuit. Yellow flag again then at turn 3. Now, turn 3, Kiko, so far this weekend has proved the pinch point. There's a little bit of a bump that didn't seem to be there last year. Caught out Marc Marquez, caught out Franklin Morbidelli, caught out Celestino Vietti, caught out Hakim Demise this morning. It's Scott Ogden now that looks like has been caught out. Well, not by that bump, to be honest, because that isn't the sort of section where we've seen the bump. Yeah, we're turning in the corner for them, and that bike takes a little bit of a barrel roll as well.
That's the second crash of the day for Scott Ogden as well. So Scott was down in the gravel again for the second time. Earlier on it was turn 13 where he took the front. This time it's turn 3. So Scott Ogden not having a lot of luck on Friday. More yellow flags at turn 3. I wonder if that's just because we've got a rider walking through the gravel, or whether we have an all-new incident altogether. We'll wait and see. Clear on the exit, so I think it's just because someone's getting that bike out the way, and yellow flag has gone in, so it looks like we're all good to go again. But a very, very dramatic opening 15 or so minutes here, Al. We came off air earlier. I came off air earlier when I caught up with you over lunch. I said it was a bit of a slow burner this morning. Well, we've had anything but this afternoon. It has been quite the opener to practice, and I remind you, this is a session that counts. This is the one that seeds them into Q1 or Q2. So a lot of crashes that are going to hurt a lot of riders, not physically, but in terms of their aspirations for pole and Q2 protest.
tuning in this weekend, watch out for that turn 3 on the exit when the riders come back for a sort of second apex before they power it back up the hill towards turn 4 and 5, and then of course come down the hill through 6 and 7. The exit of turn 3 is a little bit of a bump, but it's brought out a few riders so far this weekend. Hasn't brought out anyone in the session so far. They would of course known about it from FP1 and watching the Moto2 and MotoGP sessions as well. So obviously a little bit more aware of it than we were this morning. But do watch out for that when the riders are pushing in time attack mode, trying to fight for a bit of track position. Turn 3, of course, out a lot of riders so far this weekend across all classes.
Issa Yamanaka was up inside the top 5 early on today, just crossed the line and is in 16th place at the moment. He was 11th to 6th in the Sachsenring in 2024. His best qualifying there was a 6th in 2022. So not tearing up trees, we say Yamanaka, but his top 6 form this morning has been normal here in recent years. It's not quite getting him in that top 4, top 3 just yet.
Yeah, it's more like the Yamanaka we were used to seeing, and talking of seeing, absolutely, Kiko, that is good to see. Keeles coming back to the garage, walking not too gingerly as well. Obviously, being a bit battered and bruised from that fat stop. You can tell by the leathers. He's had a big one as Keeles. He's just joining us. Keeles turn 7 to go down. Thumbs up, which is good news. Caught his breath and looks all okay, which is great. Here's another replay of it. Shame we didn't get the sort of start of it, because clearly something happened through the mid-corner and on the exit for Keeles, who tumbles through the gravel. Didn't see the bike back in the garage, though, and we are having got a view of the Asphalt garage. I don't think we have on our comments edition, so I'll try and keep an eye out. I've got a bit of a view, but not a great one, so if we do see the bike rolling back at pit lane, if we don't get it on the TV screens, then we'll bring that to you. But yeah, a really good job on for the Asphalt mechanic.
Yeah, shaken but not stirred just yet for Max Keeles. He'll be waiting to see if he can get out from those gangbusters right at the end of this to try and get himself up into the top 14. But for now, Brian Iriarte is leading the way ahead of Joel Kelso. Jesus Rios, your top Honda from Assen there in 3rd place. Marcos Iriarte, super soft for David Munoz in 4th. Adrian Crusoe, the crash of the Guido Pini was there in 5th place. Denise, your winner from Bruno 6th. Carpe fastest this morning in 7th. Solmella 8th. 9th from the rally, Esteban Vitali, O'Shea, Ogden, another crash, and on your screen right now I can tell you he did not have butted it, he did crash it at turn 3, and Adrian Fernandez, your 14, going through at the moment. There is Scott Ogden, you can see him there communicating with the team, but not quite sure what he's gesticulating about just there, but there was no need to change the front fairing on that one, El, because the bubble had burst.
Yeah, certainly so. Unfortunately for Ogden, as you rightly mentioned, second crash of today. Hopefully, another one coming for Ogden, because that's a fairly damaged motorcycle. No issues to get back out on circuit for the final 15 minutes, or when we go into time attack mode, and that's 10 minutes. Now I can see some Asphalt mechanics running down pit lane. Does that mean a Max Keeles machine is about to re-enter the fray in terms of pit lane and be wheeled back up through the garage? A couple of mechanics jogging down pit lane, and I think the bike is about to be recovered. So it's taking its time. Pico rightly mentioned it's the part of the circuit, A, that's really quick and you also don't want to crash at, and B, pretty much the furthest point you can get from the gravel. That's Guido Pini, unless there's a rather second hand looking leopard Honda.
Yeah, it's not meant to look like that, I don't think. It's feeding into the first time. It's not meant to have a load of straight marks and dents around the side of it. We stood up here in Coventry just trying to see whether or not we've got an Asphalt machine going down pit lane. We've got a leopard mechanic running up and down pit lane as well. So a lot of bikes have gone missing because of these crashes. Good to see Guido Pini was riding it back at least, maybe not under its own steam, but at least moving its wheels in the right direction. So we'll wait to see whether Guido Pini can get that back or not. At the moment, nothing's moving in front of our comms position. We do have a pretty ideal comms position this weekend because we are right in front of pit lane. Unfortunately, I can't see all 700 metres of it, but that's fairly standard. So leopard mechanics have gone running down, so I wonder if that's the first one back. by virtue that Guido Fini is driving it back there.
Yeah, exactly that. Today, if we see any bikes coming back into pit lane, meanwhile, Brian Ariarte 6P1, and I was impressed with, I've been impressed with Ariarte for the last few Grand Prix. But the Jello backed it up with the P2 over in Brno, in between those, and the P4 over in Hungary as well. And was slightly disappointed, I think, with the P6. He had a couple of moments just defined his race. He had a couple of close calls, both hampered him slightly, and he feels at Ariarte, if he hadn't have lost a bit of time, he would have been right in that podium and potentially victory hunt as well. It was a classic rider on circuit in the closing stages, but he's turned a real corner in the last few Grand Prix with Brian Ariarte. Knows he's got the pace now, of course, to win a Grand Prix, because he's already done it, and he's already stood on the podium after that as well.